motion to approve the agenda. October 2nd, 10:30, Ad hoc County Board Rules Committee. Roll call. Ken Borzak.
Yes.
Judy Nickler.
Here.
Gary Sorensen.
Here.
Dave Benson.
Here.
Dennis Fenner.
Here.
Also in attendance would be Chuck Bornhoff in the room and Peggy Krause online. Also in attendance would be Kylie, our Corp Counsel Sean Griffin, and Danny Foucault, as well as myself. With that, I need a motion to review and approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do I need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, election of the chairman of the Ad hoc County Board Rules. We will take nominations.
Nominate Ken Borzak.
I second.
We have a nomination for Ken and a second. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, since we only have one, unless it's opposed, we will move forward and name Ken Borzak chair of the committee. Carry on.
Thank you for your support. All right, we are to review sections of ordinance chapter 2. What's your pleasure? Do we just start in the beginning and then go right down the list, or? That's up to the committee.
Might as well.
All right. 1, rules. Is there anything, we'll take it section by section if nobody sees anything. I think everybody has a copy of them.
Are you gonna take it section by section, Ken?
Yeah, and if we have to, if we start picking at something, we'll do it line by line, but right now it's 202. It's the first one on my screen.
Okay. I don't wanna pick on any section, I just wanna bring up a broad comment. And I don't know if you want that now or if you want that later.
You're on the committee, Dennis. You can make it now or later or both.
Well, I was on the committee before, and a couple things that I think, and I don't know if there's support for Justin on, because if there's no support here, then I'm gonna let it die and just go. I stated before that I think our county board budget could be cut, and maybe the attorney can follow in on some of this stuff here too, that the county board budget could be cut. We did a good job, well, committees have done a good job with holding their meetings if they don't have no meetings there. Couple places I was, and this hit dead water last time around, looking at cuts on salary for committee meetings. Now, can we do that? Can't we do that? Lowering them. The second question is, when you have committee meetings that are meeting committee after committee, the second per diem, we don't get paid mileage, but the second per diem. And you have some that have serving on committees where the committee meets right behind. First of all, I'd like to look at ag and extension, land and water. I definitely think that could be combined into one committee. Our meetings never take over an hour into each. They're always back to back. You see some of the other committees like public safety and property, they meet back to back. There's the same person involved in some of them where they're meeting back to back. Is it realistic to think of when you get a second per diem in your back to back meetings, that second per diem should be reduced because you don't have the time? Yes, you get paid mileage, but you don't have the time coming over here and the time going home as somebody who has a second meeting. I don't know if that can be addressed because you'd be paying committee members on the second committee 2 different salaries. If you was your only committee, you'd get the one salary. If the other committee was the other salary. Another thing, I know some other counties, they do it with a lot less committees. Is there some tendency that we could combine committees and save money? I'm looking at the money end. That's where I'm coming from first. I'm not picking on anybody, but I'm looking at the money end. Is there some place where you could look at combining committees? Ag and extension, land and water, if that could be legally put together, I don't see no problem where that one will combine. Could Board of Health and Human Services be combined into one committee? If you look at committee meetings, they're hardly ever taking over an hour and stuff. And you're looking at this, and Chokio Public looks at this and they hear what you're getting paid, and you come down and sit for 2 committees. There was one case this year where there were a couple members that sat for 3 committees. They started, I think, at 8:30 and we were done by before noon. and they got paid 3 per diems because they were running back to back to back. It was a separate case where there was, and then adding in a county board meeting at the nighttime too. And you say, well, 4 meetings, that's a nice paycheck for 1 day's of work. Yes, you have to go home once and come back. But that was one spot where I was looking at if there was something. The other thing I'd like to address.
You've already asked 4 questions.
Okay, then I'll stop.
And I know on the first point what our old corp council was, and Sean, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna throw you under the bus first thing and foremost. Did you wanna address those concerns?
So a lot of that is discretionary, right? In terms of the salaries that you're paying, it's discretionary. There's no state statute that says you need to pay XYZ amount for attending a meeting. That's discretionary, and whether you pay, if you say, if you go to 2 meetings in the same day, you get 2 per diems, or if it's that decreased, that's discretionary. So that's up, I guess, for this committee and ultimately the county board to decide. In terms of combining meetings, for most of those, there's not gonna be an issue with combining committees together. There are some that are statutorily created that says like you have to have a planning and zoning committee that meets and performs this function. And that's separate from the Board of Adjustment, for example. But for most of these, there wouldn't be an issue if you wanted to combine them. So, and going back to compensation, I previously worked for Winnebago County Corporation Council. And one of the things we talked about there at length and the county board ended up not going towards was just a flat salary for the year. They thought that it might simplify things, and rather than having, substantive conversations of when is someone paid a per diem, when is mileage reimbursed, when does XYZ happen, everyone would get paid the same salary, and then whoever was the president of the council not president of the council, but in charge of the county board would receive a higher salary. And was how some other counties do it, because that simplifies the process there. But in terms of compensation, the state statute doesn't prescribe specifically what the county has to do. The county board makes its own financial decision. It has the power of the purse and can decide if it wants to give a different amount or give no amount for certain things.
Judy was first.
Mr. Chair, Dennis is raising some of the same things that I have questions, and I would like to discuss also when we get to that. But just to make it probably a little bit more easier to follow, can we just go through all of these? Some of these are going to be probably rather, quickly. And then when we'll get into some of the discussion on some of those other ones, because, I have some ideas or suggestions too on some of these things. So if we could just kind of go in an orderly fashion, I think that would be a little bit better.
Is that all right with everyone? All right. And we are on, you wanna go through this line by line then? Under O2, all meetings of the county board shall be conducted in a most recent revised edition of Robert Rules of Order. We have no problem with that, I'm assuming. Go ahead, Judy.
Do we need to actually read it line by line?
No,
or
I'm
can we
hoping
just-
not.
Can we just, look at it?
Yeah.
We've already read it
All right.
ahead of time. Is that okay with the committee?
That's,
Just page slowly through, and if anybody's got a
That's
question
fine.
about a line, raise your hand. and
Yeah.
ask.
I'm starting with 201 and going down let's just go 1 through 7. Is there anything in there that catches anybody's eye or?
A lot of this stuff we cleaned up 2 years ago.
Yes.
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Gary.
Okay. Number 4, where it says no rule suspended, amended, and so on without a 2/3 vote of the membership. Now, we're setting the rules for the next board, actually. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It'll go in effect in April.
Yep. Now, does it take a majority vote or a 2/3 vote now to set the rules for the next board? Get me? Okay, once those rules are set and they're in for that session, for that term of office, I get the 2/3 thing. But what if a majority wants to change a rule now for the next term? Is that going to take 2/3 or a majority? And I think there's a little,
The way I'm reading this, and I have an attorney down on the end who'll correct me if I'm wrong, but according to the last year's or our last term's board rules, it would take a 2/3 vote to do that. What we put in the next one is relevant, would take place for the next board rules, not this coming board rules. Am I reading that right?
Yes.
okay. At his presentation, Andy Phillips made a point of using appendixes for things that could be changed by a majority vote. Example would be the wages of the board. That's an appendix. So theoretically, between now and nomination paper time, a majority could change the compensation. That's not a rule, that's an appendix. Ron, you were at that session
I
also.
was, and this would be very similar to how we handle union contracts, that if there is a change, without putting a specific number on it, we put it in an appendix that could easily be changed.
That's my point. I just want to clarify, come say a vote on compensation. Is it going to take 2/3 to make any kind of a change, either to raise it or to lower it? Or is it going to take a simple majority? Now, if I heard Andy presentation correct, since that's an appendix, it would be a majority. It wouldn't have to be a 2/3 vote.
Yeah, it's not an actual rule.
Not a rule, but an
Right.
appendix. And in other words, you're citing in your rules some kind of a resolution that's an appendix to the rules. Got it? So I just want to know now if there's agreement or disagreement on that principle.
So to change the rules would still take a 2/3 vote.
Right.
But to change an appendix would only be, and that will be listed somewhere farther down in the rules.
Down the way, but that would be a majority.
Okay.
And to Dennis's point, he was talking about combining some committees to save some money and so on. That would be 2/3 because the description of the committees is right inside the rules, in the ordinance.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I just wanted to get that all
Right.
on the record a little bit here.
So then if I'm following you right, Gary, if we wanted to combine a committee, it takes 2/3 vote of the whole county board or this committee?
2/3 of the
whole
board.
county board, the board as a whole, correct, Kylie? Is that how you put it?
Yep.
Okay.
But Gary, are you hoping to add basically somewhere on 2.01 to basically note in there that majority vote would change an appendix? Because we do have appendix.
Well, that was what Phillips was
Okay.
saying. I took it that was his recommendation, that there was a difference between because the rules are in an ordinance, okay? Where appendixes were individual resolutions cited in there, but they're to be brought up separately
Yep, and the
Okay.
board can pass a resolution by majority vote.
by majority vote. Yep,
So we would have to put that in the rules? I guess I'm trying to
well,
follow
if you wanted a
through on where you're
clarification
going
of the
here.
point,
I don't know if you know, so the way that we have this set up, right, is we say we have the ordinance has the rules. And then in certain sections, we say, for example, county board will be paid pursuant to the the rate table in appendix D. And appendix D will then say,
what it is.
what it is, and the
Yeah.
resolution can change that. It'll say like it was, hereby resolved as resolution 25-1 that the county board has paid this amount. So I don't think we need to change that to put
Yeah,
anything
as
in
long as we
2.1.
understand it.
As long as we have it set up, so the ordinance cites the rules cite the appendix, and the appendix cites the resolution. I don't think anything needs to change, and that appears to be how this is set up right now, even with the current appendices.
I just wanted to clarify because I think there could be confusion on that point.
Certainly.
Okay, so we are clear on 2.01. Is there, that can stand as presented. Okay, 02. Gary?
Okay, I took a lot of notes during Phillips's presentation in that thing, and he did say that in the event a board chair was to deny an item coming onto an agenda, that there should be a mechanism for the full board to place an item on the next month's agenda, regardless of the board chair's opinion on that subject. And so perhaps this is the section, but, what he recommended was that there be an agenda item on the county as a regular monthly agenda down toward the bottom, kind of like we have now where you have meeting calendar, but there could also be on there a place.
Future agenda items?
Yes.
I agree with that. I think that's a good idea. Because
Not
then
that
if
we've
we-
ever had disputes about agendas, but
And I don't have a problem with that either.
so some kind of wording perhaps in this section directing that there be such an agenda item at regular board meetings in order to plug that potential loophole.
And is that going to be something where an individual board member can request that? Or is that going to be something that you have to have a majority vote by the board to have it placed on the following month's agenda?
I think somewhere in the rules it says two or more can request an item.
Maybe we're covered.
You know, I think if I remember.
It does, it
Yeah.
does.
Maybe
And
we're
all it
covered.
takes is two members to get it up for discussion. Chuck?
The verbiage that we currently have says any board member may request legally permissible agenda items to be included on board, committee, or commission agendas by requesting the same through the chairperson.
But you're requesting it through the chairperson.
I think
with this-
How is that
the
different?
concern is that the chair rejected to put it on on the agenda. And if they want the ability to override the chair's decision to not put it on the agenda.
This happened in Langley a number of times where the chairman, who had different political views than maybe some of the others, and those other supervisors wanted something on the agenda. And he said, I'm not putting it on the agenda because I'm chair and I decide what goes on the agenda. So having the mechanism you're talking about would allow that mechanism to come forward without the chair necessarily agreeing to put it on the agenda.
But doesn't our verbiage allow that today?
It does, but the key is the remedy. If under the current system, if you, for example, want something on the agenda and you go to the chairperson, you say, I would like X on the agenda. If he tells you no, your remedy is to sue him in circuit court and get an order from the court putting it on the agenda. If we have this removal process to remove an item, or maybe not removal, but remove something from committee to the board or to put something on the agenda, we say it's a majority vote, then your remedy isn't to sue the chair in circuit court and get a court order. Your remedy is to get a majority vote of the county board to put it on the agenda, which is a lot easier and more simple process.
Yeah, the chair makes a decision on what is on the agenda and isn't on the agenda at the current time. And this would just clean it up a little bit, that if you had a rogue chair, that
They do
the board
exist.
would, the
They do
board,
exist in
right,
the state.
we're fortunate we never have had that situation,
Yeah.
but if we had a board chair that refused to put it on the agenda, then the board itself could put it on.
There's a
the agenda.
Yes.
mechanism for
The
it.
key is the mechanism and the remedy.
Andy didn't name the county, but he said there was quite a brouhaha in the past on that issue.
I can tell you where it was.
Okay.
But, so towards the end of the county board agenda, you can always say consideration of future agenda items.
Yes.
And then, let's say one of you said, well, this is what I would like to see. And then, let's say you say, no, I don't want that on there, then by a majority of the committee or.
You could override the ruling of the
could.
chair.
Yes.
Right. So my suggestion would just be to add that to future county board agenda items or committee too, for that matter.
Yep.
Consideration of future agenda items.
And then it's just passed by majority vote.
Of whatever that would be, if.
Right.
Whatever the item may be.
And then if no one has an item at that moment, they still need to submit it in writing to the chair or their designee.
I would think so, it has to get on the
Which is
agenda
still, so
somehow.
we're leaving what's in the rules and just adding.
Yes.
And the thing is, you're not getting into a debate on the topic at that meeting where you're placing this on the agenda. That would be forbidden by open meetings. You're simply either placing it or agreeing with the chair not to place it.
Is that, gotta play devil's advocate because I am the chair of the committee. Now, does that eliminate the chair's right to send it to a committee or does it go directly to the county board?
Well,
A lot
technically,
of these-
theoretically, under Roberts, I think you would be required to go, at the very least, to go ahead and have a discussion or go ahead and have an agenda item on exec and finance for that to go ahead and be able to go ahead and come to the
The
full county
following
board.
month.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my concern is, and I don't know, pick any item, but it would probably better vented if it was sent to the committee for discussion before it came
Yeah.
directly to the county board.
Correct.
That's my point.
I think you're getting ahead of yourself. All we're wanting to do is have an item on the agenda.
Right.
And then at that time, if it's on the next
Right.
month's agenda, then it can be directed to the appropriate
Yes.
committee.
Prior to, yeah.
Yes.
I think
For
that's,
example, that's how it works in the legislature, for example, and that's kind of system it mirrors. The biggest issue that the legislature and other counties often see is that a committee wants to bring an item and that's not getting out of committee to the county board. Or separately, that the county could then take up action at the board to refer it to a committee. So I think we're covered either way.
I'm gonna use the nightmare example of Sauk County with the nursing home thing.
Yeah.
And we had great length discussions with Tim because he sat with Andy Phillips through 3 committee meetings the day before the county board meeting. And all 3 committees refused to take action. So their rules, the way I understood it, read that if a committee didn't take action on it, it couldn't get to the county board. So 3 different committees failed to pass this resolution on the nursing home. So when it came to the county board, they had standing room only and packed full, but there was no recommendation from a committee. So the county board had no action to take. And the residents were insisting that they had to take some kind of action on something that legally they couldn't do. That's what I'm just. Okay. So I'm not opposed to the rule. I just want a little clarification that it should get, I still think if the county board's gonna, and I get it, it's different if it gets a tie vote in the committee and something and the board thinks that something there, that's a whole different story. But if it's not been vetted by a committee, I don't think it should be at a county board level. That's my only point. So how we verbiage that is between corp counsel and Kylie.
I'll let him do it.
All right, so are we good on 02?
Yep.
All right, we'll go to 03.
We've got the part right in there about the November 11th thing with the Veterans Day for not having a board meeting. That's, you know, cited. I don't know if this would be the section or not, but Andy also made a point that somewhere we need to define what a session is. And I believe the recommendation may have been that a session is the entire 2-year term. But that maybe it needs to be cited for, and
That needs to be set.
yeah,
Okay.
and I'm just, I heard that one and that made sense too. That, yeah, because you have things you call meetings, you call annual meetings, organizational meetings and all this stuff. But also, what is a session of the board? And again, like what you said over there, kind of similar to the legislature.
You are the legislature of the county.
Right, right. So I don't know if this is the spot, but it refers to the different meetings and the fact that we have an annual meeting in November for setting the budget and the levy, and we have an organizational meeting in April to, actually, it says
is-
annually.
It is where they add it, Gary, on the WCA one, under this section, under meetings, you're right.
Right.
I pulled up the WCA ones.
Yeah, so do we, are you able to run a search? Do we have the word session somewhere in the rules?
We don't, but I see they have the 2-year period of time between the organizational meetings in section 2.01A hereof shall constitute a session of the county board. And any business pending and upon which the board has not acted prior to the close of a session can no longer be acted upon without being reintroduced. So we can add that language under this section.
As a 2.035.
Okay,
Is there any objection to that?
No. Session defined as a 2-year term.
yep,
I did want to mention too, when, through WCA, I had contact with Sarah Kasdorf. She was with Andy when they presented at the last county board meeting. She said after we go through this entire process, they would be more than happy to look at what we come up with and give suggestions through WCA. So I thought we would take advantage of that. And present it at that point, if it's ready. It may open up a can of worms, but I don't know. They offered, so.
If you don't open the worms, you're not gonna catch any fish. So is anybody opposed to adding that verbiage on a session to this section under, it'd be 5? All right, so between Kylie and Sean, somebody will get that taken care of. Rule 4.
I have something.
Go ahead, Julie.
Just, and I'm thinking back of when Natalie's situation, you know, that she wasn't able to attend. And I mean, it could be the same situation. Virtual attendance during closed session will not be allowed. I know this was Dennis's big push last time, and I'm not gonna dispute that, but shouldn't we have something in there unless allowed by the chair? Because there are times, I think, that you may have a situation where you really do want that person's on board. And we had a situation like that even with the department staff, even though it doesn't apply to county board rules and public safety, that the only way that that person could attend, and we needed that for input, we needed that person's information to make a decision. They had to attend virtual, and I'm just thinking that that can be either with agreement with the whole board or committee or at the discretion of the chair. Cause I don't wanna block somebody out that would.
Right. Well, I think, and you guys all can correct me if I'm wrong, these rules apply to the board.
Right,
Now, because virtually, and we've had this under different committees I've been in, where you just like a court of law, if you need a witness that's in California or something, and you know, it doesn't, we're not paying mileage for them to fly to, and that would be someone outside of the board. You know, the rule fits good, in my opinion, for the members of the board itself, but if we needed an expert or an opinion from someone, and I take your point seriously, you know, that would help if you didn't have to fly somebody in or.
I mean, you can always say no.
Right.
maybe number 4 should be added to this, and maybe the attorney can address this as, like the fact you said of California, or in the case where our corp counsel can't make it, that this refers to anybody outside of the board if the evidence and the need is pertinent to the case. And I don't know how you would word that, because you don't want 10 attorneys to be able to chime in, but it should be, you know, if you can't, because like you said, California or something, and a client is out in California, but they own property here about some issue, and they have their attorney out there. Well, the client ain't gonna fly in because it's probably over something minor. The attorney ain't gonna fly in because it just doesn't justify it, but that would allow them the opportunity. I know where I came with this was because when we went to this virtual attendance stuff, which I still got a little beef with, is the fact of being able to make sure that there ain't 10 people sitting behind this person. And you put the camera on, but they don't have to be in the camera because your camera only picks up where it's showing. So you can have them sitting off to the sides and you got everything. And that's where I was adamant about this at first when we started going into this. And now after it's played out with the virtual session stuff, I'm still not in agreement with some of this stuff, but that was defeated by majority last time at the county board level.
I just
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that we don't want to, this is for the county board, but we don't want to eliminate, I mean, personally, from my perspective, I could pan the camera all the way around the room the whole time I'm in closed session, but I'm just thinking that at least it gives an opportunity, if this is an individual that you really do want, you can always say no. That's what I'm trying to say, is you can at least say no.
I represent a number of municipalities and we allow virtual attendance during closed session at the discretion of the board. I really don't think this is a substantial issue. I mean, most of the time, those virtual attendees are going, other members of the board. They're gonna be, if my office is called on short notice, we might attend virtually to those things. An expert or, a consultant. I really don't think there's a substantial concern in just giving the board discretion to do so. Most municipalities that we represent have no issues with that, so I don't see substantial concerns giving the board that discretion.
I agree with what was just said myself.
So how would you word that? Just add a line that, it's the discretion of the board or the discretion of the chair?
Well, it depends on, like, we have one municipality where they do a vote at the beginning of every meeting and they say, approval of remote appearance for, members or whoever. And then they do a vote and then it's just customary and then everyone's allowed to be there, during closed session of that. They just do a vote, at the beginning of every closed session for that. We have some that they put that authority in the village, president to make that decision. That's gonna be your discretion here, but, yeah, there's.
I mean, it might be a case where that might be your only way to have a quorum,
Yes.
so.
This is dealing with strictly a closed session.
Right, I know.
So this is a little different can of worms and.
What about the virtual attendance during closed session will be at the discretion of either the committee chair or the committee?
Okay.
Choose which one. You
Yeah.
want the authority with I think it should be with the chairperson
Yep.
of the committee. And leave it at that.
And to that point, okay, this very committee right here now.
Go ahead and pick
one of
on
us
me,
was-
Gary, you want to, I can see it.
Ken says, nope, Gary, he's virtual and he does not get to participate in the closed session if such were happening at this meeting.
Right.
All right. That's a ruling of the chair. Theoretically, the rest of the committee could
Overrule the chair.
appeal and overrule the ruling of the chair. So like in your case, you mentioned villages, so a village president makes a decision on the matter. The rest of the village board could theoretically overrule the ruling of the chair, couldn't they?
Yep.
Okay. So what Ron just said would work, subject to an appeal of the ruling of the chair.
You just gave me the authority and took it away all at the same time.
That's right.
Checks and balances.
Yep.
Peggy had a question, I believe.
Peggy, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that, as I understood it, there's sometimes very confidential information at those closed sessions, and sometimes they're talking about personnel in particular. And I would be concerned about people attending virtually for that.
I think that's why we give the flexibility here. Like if you hire, for example, you hire an external HR consultant out of Madison to consult on an issue like that. You might want to say, yeah, you can appear virtually because we don't want to pay you mileage to drive up here. You could also say, if you, for whatever other reason, this is sensitive enough that we don't want to have this recorded and, have, transmission of that. You can make that decision as well. So I think that's why, you leave it as a discretionary function.
Anyone else?
So what, are we suggesting a change to number 3? Right now it says will not be allowed.
I think we had number 4 to address other instances, because I don't think we wanna open, this is my opinion, I don't think we wanna open it up.
You could go ahead, and put virtual attendance normally during the closed session will not be allowed. And then you could go ahead and add a subparagraph A that goes ahead. The virtual attendance may be approved by the chair at their discretion.
Wouldn't
Kind of a
we just
compromise.
modify number 3, virtual attendance during closed session will be at the discretion of the chairperson?
You could do it that way
So
too.
what I've written here is virtual attendance during closed session may be permitted with the consent of the chair of the committee or board.
Yes.
Okay.
That covers everybody's concerns on 04. 05.
Ken,
Whoop, go
I've
ahead.
got another one on closed session
That's not a problem, Gary.
that, again, Mr. Phillips brought up. What if you're in a closed session and you're going to buy land and you've got a board member not on the committee? Right now, our rules allow any member of the county board to sit in a closed session, even if they're not on that particular committee. All right, now we've got a conflict of interest situation where a board member is a landowner. Is he gonna, or she going to have the right to sit in that meeting and hear what you're willing to pay? To buy that land?
Kick 'em out.
Huh?
Yeah, we
You
would.
need a
remove them.
rule to be able to do it, he said.
I heard the same thing.
You heard the same thing. And that evidently did happen in a county where a county board member insisted on sitting in a closed session of some kind of a committee that he was not a member of. And he had a absolute conflict of interest.
In a closed session?
Yeah, there was some litigation involved, and then they were worried that the attorney that was presenting for the county side in closed session was then giving away their,
The store.
their plan
Yeah.
to the person that was involved.
So you would have to have something where the county or the chair of the committee or the full board, whatever it is, would have the right
A
to,
clear conflict of interest. Right.
yep,
We should have something in there.
it's gotta be a definite conflict of
Well,
interest.
that's also in your ethical agreement that you go ahead.
Yeah,
and
but
do
this
with the
board member
county.
was refusing to leave.
That was another thing he encouraged, have something, for, we do
And-
have that. right?
Was that the one where they actually had a deputy sheriff come to the
Yeah.
meeting? Yes, yeah. To handle the situation because it was getting tense between whoever was
refused to
chairing the
leave.
meeting and the obstinate board member with the conflict of interest.
So how would we word that? Who would have that person removed? If there is a clear conflict of interest, that person would not be allowed to attend? Is that how you want to word it, or?
Well, the situation would present, just assuming this was property, and you were coming, you owned the land and there was an issue about that land. And we were gonna go into closed session, let's say, for whatever reason, maybe it's a zoning rule or something. Then you said, no, I'm gonna stay in closed session. Your rules say I can stay in closed session, but there's obviously a conflict of interest. So before we go into closed session, or as we're going into closed session, it would have to be, I think we would note, hey, there's a clear conflict of interest here. And then upon the advice of court counsel,
Mhm.
you would then be excluding that member.
Be recused from the closed session.
Yeah,
That they could not attend.
it's one of my
You
favorite.
would think that the board member would go ahead and abstain and go ahead and exclude, but
They
Well,
don't.
leave,
Yeah.
because you don't
They
wanna,
don't.
you don't
I
wanna.
know what county that was in.
Yeah,
Well, it could have been a case like when we were looking at ambulance sites. If
Yeah.
two people had had a site along and somebody was on the board that owned land close to it,
Yeah.
and he's gonna sit in and eavesdrop, because then he's gonna turn around and he's gonna say, well, I'll sell mine for $100 an acre less, because you know what the dollar figure, because the dollar figures were stated when you were doing that. That wasn't hit, the dollar figures, what you were looking at,
and,
were right out in the open.
and that's what Attorney Phillips said a county should head off. Have a policy so that you're cut and dried on how to handle it if.
So we need a line 4, and I can hardly wait to hear the wisdom from court counsel on that one. On that being said, Peggy, what do you, Look, the mic's off, Peggy.
Our open session, if there's any conflict of interest, you're supposed to abstain from voting. People in the closed session might be on that committee, and there still might be a conflict of interest. So I would think that that would be covered, like Dave said about the ethics that we're already covered with.
So I think this again goes to the remedy. We have ethics rules that say board members can't vote or take action on certain things due to a conflict of interest. The whole remedy here, the issue is what's the procedure and what's the remedy? It seems to me, and I think the Attorney Phillips from his guidance as well, is that the easier remedy is that the ethics rules say, if you're voting on something in open session, you have to abstain. That's clear, and that's under our ethics rules for the county and under Wisconsin statute. But if someone wants to be present in closed session, if it's a violation of the ethics rules, do you want a remedy that the board has to remove them for a violation of the ethics rules? Or do you need to, what's the other remedy? You have to get an order, like in the court case you talked about, from the court saying that. So do you want the board chair on the advice of counsel to have the authority to remove them? Or do you want to have to go run to a judge and get an injunction? I think that's the different here.
Right. Keep it simple.
First.
Yep. So we're gonna add a line.
Yep.
You're just plugging a.
Right, that's why we're going through
Thing.
the rules.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
Anything else under 04? 05? Kylie's always done an excellent job with 05. I can hardly wait to hear what we can do to treat her.
On 05, the only thing I would like to go ahead and see, or somewhere in our county board rules, would be that video recordings of all meetings can be viewed, and then for a county board member, where to go ahead and find them. I'd like to go ahead and see that, because there's too often you go ahead, you have some people, especially new board members, that have difficulty going ahead and navigating where to go ahead and find the videos of meetings.
We just have to add IT to the orientation meeting, and he will go a deep dive.
I'm in it.
2
Yeah.
hours episode on how to find
Okay.
it and where it is and where it's easily located.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that would have to go in the rules, it would just go in the orientation package.
Yep, I think that can go in orientation. I don't know.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's completely fine.
That's a good point.
Well, and generally I have a bookmark pushed out to all iPads. And I just have to show them, but it is saved somewhere on their iPads where they can just click and.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the cloud.
Yeah, that's already part of the orientation that Dan will go, I mean, he could add that part specifically, but another thing, as long as we're talking about it, is maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea for your orientation, has nothing to do with this, but to have how people can attend virtually.
Absolutely.
How they can
Mhm.
click on and attend virtually, because I think that there's some people that are very apprehensive to use it or don't know how to use it.
Sure.
And I think that could be part of the orientation too.
Absolutely.
On page 19, it does say, to the extent the county's technology permits and personnel is available, the county will endeavor to record meetings of the county board and standing committees and provide access for view by the public on whatever platform the county MIS department head decides to utilize or as determined by the county board. So I think we didn't specifically list where, because I know Danny switched from Facebook to YouTube because they had a better records retention. So I think we just say platform, intentionally to be broad for that.
So it could just be included in the training in the orientation.
So it is,
If the county, for example, wanted to get its own platform or do anything like that, so,
Yeah.
yeah. flexibility
that's
makes
under
sense.
miscellaneous.
05 is good. 06.
One question on 2026, and it ain't in here, but we gotta do something about the issue when we have tie votes and sitting and voting 8 times for something. I say after 2 times, that automatically reverts to some type of tiebreaker. Because when you had, and we had the last meeting, when you have that, all you're sitting there is waiting for somebody to flip their vote. If you don't know who you want to vote for by the first two votes, then it should be done, and it should go down to where the two candidates, the two people that are up, agree to some tiebreaker. And whether you want to list the tiebreaker, or it's flip of a coin, pull the highest card or something. Because this last year when we sat with that one, that's, in my opinion, ridiculous. And we should limit the number of votes. And this applies to anything. If you end up with a tie when you're setting committees too, where for some reason you end up in a tie to set the last member of the committee, where you go no more than 2 votes and then it's a poll instead of this stuff sitting there and voting and waiting for somebody to switch.
You know, I know what you're referring to, and I understand. Maybe a way to alleviate that is, there's a lot of new people that were on our board this last time, and they don't know me, they don't know us. You know, and I think a way to do it is, if you're interested in the chair or the vice chair position, and Wisconsin Counties Association recommends this or suggests or has it as an idea, is if you're interested in the position of a chair or vice chair, put something together prior to the organizational meeting in writing that gets sent out to the entire board, so that the new people can get a background. You can put on there your background, your interest, what your goal, whatever you want, so that they're not put on a spot right then and there. Okay, we got to pick somebody, and I don't know either one of these people. So, you know, that might take care of some of that issue too, that if they know the background, yes, the same old people that are on the board, they know who they want to vote for, and they're not going to change anyway. But maybe this would change, you know, or at least give the new people an idea, to give them some background of who they're voting for, or why they're voting for them.
But in this case here, where it was the tie, the switch vote was by a senior incumbent member.
What's the difference? I mean, I don't care who voted.
It doesn't matter, Judy, sitting here and voting 8 times and then waiting, because it just became coincidental that the minute we broke, the minute we came back, we passed a vote. Now, I don't know how to say it, but, and I'll say it whether you like it or not, I think there was some politicking in that 5-minute break.
There's politicking that goes on prior to that meeting. on
But
both
there
sides.
should, but yes, and there's politicking that goes on prior to the meeting. But when you do this politicking prior to the meeting, and this happened this last time, there was politicking for vice chairperson. When you start calling another person and say you're running for vice chairperson, you just started to walk in quorum, right? Wrong?
Depends on the number of people you're communicating.
Yeah, it's just.
Well,
one-
if you're
One-on-one.
communicating, if the person who wants to be chairman calls one and communicates, that's not an issue. But now number 2 calls and number 1 goes and calls somebody else. Now all of a sudden you just started a line for
You do have to be
open
very
meeting,
careful.
right?
Yeah.
So my point, and I'll be straightforward, if you want a thing, putting out a resume that you're interested in everybody, there's no problem with that, as long as it goes to everybody and it's just a resume that it goes to everybody. Individual politicking, and it's taken place, as long as I've been on this county board, I've been approached by individual politicking every time for committees or for other stuff. Individual politicking is a ethics violation for an open meetings. And Natalie called some people out sometimes on some of this stuff when it showed up, because they weren't, so I say, smart enough to stay off the county computer, because she could track it. If they would have been on their own and not on their county computer address, it would have been a different story. But this voting stuff, how many votes do we have? And right after 5 minutes, somebody switched. And no, we shouldn't have had eight people, but it cannot happen. This time there was a question of whether somebody could legally serve on the board, but you could have somebody that could be absent. You could have 3 people that could be absent for some reason or another, And now you still, and we sit there and sit there and sit there and vote. When does a tie become a tie and it's gotta be broken between the two candidates themselves? It's a flip up, it's a 50-50 flip up, and you're not dependent on somebody to flip their vote.
We're not gonna stop the politicking. It's been going on for thousands of years. That's just people. However, you brought up a couple of other things in what you were saying too, and one of the things did come from Andy Phillips in regards to using your phone during a meeting and texting. That is a violation. And we should have a rule specifically stating that during a meeting, there will be no cell phone communication between members.
Use of electronic devices.
Right.
Well, he also emphasized use the county email for county related business.
Subject to
Don't use
open
your
records
personal email.
request. And so whatever texting you're doing, if somebody notices that, he gave an example that now your phone is open for an open records
Yeah.
request. So you shouldn't do it.
Wasn't it a case of, on a county board that a member was texting another member on how to vote on a certain issue?
Somebody saw it.
And
from
and the press saw it.
Yeah, and they made that request. So it's like, okay,
So the press demanded their iPhone and wanted a public records request on their iPhone.
Peggy, you have a comment?
When I went to the meeting, back a year and a half ago for orientation for new board members, I brought up the question that Dennis is talking about, and that the people that were running for those positions both called me and were talking to me, and I asked them if that was a violation of the open meeting, negative quorum, all of that, and they said no. They said that that was like campaigning for a position, and they said that that wasn't a violation. Just to let you know.
Well, I'll just say that Robert's Rules of Order, in my mind, governs the situation, and if it's a tie vote, you keep voting. If it's something that you've got to get settled at that meeting. The only alternative, I guess, then if you can't get it settled, would be if one person would withdraw or, that kind of thing. Or you postpone that election to the next meeting. You never know, even with an odd numbered board, you never know if you're gonna have one absent. If you had an even numbered board, which some counties do, they have 14 or 16 or whatever. You never know on whether it's gonna be an odd or even in attendance and voting. So I don't know. I think Roberts says you just keep going like you guys did at that meeting, but unless you would have a rule to the contrary.
We're not Milwaukee County, so it won't take us 12 hours.
Well,
Wherever
that's,
that
see,
one
that's what I was saying, because at that meeting, after vote 3, both candidates could have looked at it and said, we're done voting, let's do a straw poll. You know,
The candidates could have, but
the
that's not.
candidates could have themselves at that meeting, after 3 votes, said, this is it, we're doing a straw poll, we both agree. Now, if one disagrees, then you can't do it because you revert to Robert's Rules of Orders. The point being is, that night, if everybody kept going, at what point does the chairperson say, we're done voting, and it goes to the next meeting? Maybe at vote 5 it should be, or maybe you put something in like that, that maybe after 5 tie votes, it automatically goes to the next meeting. So we don't sit and do this back and forth. And then it was just coincidental that we have a break and we come back right away. And on the next first ballot, we split the vote and somebody switched.
I don't know what the tipping point would be in terms of the number of tie votes you would allow or to move forward with another action, but I know some of these issues in smaller places are settled by a coin flip, literally. And if, you have, let's say it's 3 strikes, 3 tie votes in a row, and there's an impasse, it's like, and if you and I are the ones
Yep,
running
that's-
against each
see,
other,
that's
it's
what
like,
I was
do
referring.
you agree then, Dennis, if we flip a coin, if Dave flips a coin, we abide by whatever that decision is?
Yeah, see, that's what
And that's how it would be
Maybe
settled.
that's a thing for like electing a chair or vice chair or whatever, but I've heard of that with regard to elections.
It's
Yeah.
not, I'm looking online, it's happened in both cases. towns, have done it, for, election results. Boards have done it for choosing, city council president, I'm seeing, so, I'm struggling to think of another remedy besides, continuing to vote or random chance. So at this point, that's the only two things I can think of, unless anyone else has another idea.
Can we move on and I'll challenge you to bring something back or
Yeah,
change?
we can do that, yeah.
Okay, I just want to bring it up at a point.
So on that, can we still, as it reads for Wisconsin County Board members interested in nomination for the position of board chair and vice chair and are encouraged to indicate their interest in the positions of those. And there's things there as if you're elected, what do you want to change or do differently? Some type of submit a letter of interest so that there is some background information for especially the new members to see.
I don't have no problem with that, Judy, as long as it's submitted to every person.
When you're
With the
elected,
same
in between the
wording.
results of the election and the organizational meeting, Kylie would send that out to every single person. And if you choose not to submit something, that's fine. And when you get there and somebody nominates somebody else on the floor, so be it. But I think that it might alleviate
And that should all be going, through Kylie.
Right.
It should be going through a local county website. It should not be from supervisor to supervisor.
No.
And I don't have a problem with that. It's when you get into the supervisor to supervisor thing, it gets, yeah. And that
Because
makes
it's
the-
Politics.
Yeah.
Because if somebody else was nominated, they still got 5 minutes to speak their piece.
Correct.
One other thing though, and I heard this at WCA some years ago, and I believe it was the Dane County Board for one of their leadership positions. They had a tie vote a couple of times, but there was a third party on the board interested in the position. And of course, Dane County being a little more ideological, shall we say, between liberals and conservatives. What happened was the liberals gave up, the conservatives gave up on their tie, and the neutral down in the middle came from behind and won. Either like a vice chair or whatever, but that's, it was a long, we've heard of, like you said, Milwaukee County, 12 hours. Dane County has done that too, way into the night. But a third party actually came from behind and overtook the whole thing as a compromise candidate.
See, that would come up too, if it was a tie, and then someone on the floor could nominate somebody else. I just think you're getting, I'd like to see the majority of people make the decision rather than the flip of a coin or.
Yeah, flip of the coin, I thought that's like an election. Oxford had a village president elected at one time on a tie vote, and they had to flip a coin after everyone agreed, after about 3 recounts, that it was a tie.
Yeah, and I think you could do that, or you can choose a different method that
Yep.
would better serve.
Yeah.
Chuck?
I agree with doing it. My only concern would be logistically, because any new member of the board does not have access to any of the county materials until after that first meeting.
Well, the county clerk could technically mail that directly to any new board member.
And that would be my only concern with it. I don't know if you need to enumerate that, but realize that.
It's a very quick turnaround. It really would be up to the newly elected individual to get that information to the county clerk very quickly. But if they're willing to do it, absolutely, the county clerk can.
I'm worried about getting, people that say, I'm interested in this position. And yes, you can post it online, and yes, I can send it on your Marquette County email,
No, I
but
would mail it. Yeah,
just
it
so,
would have to be mailed.
They'd be a member elect. They wouldn't be a member yet, but they would be a member elect.
We're still on 1 through 5. And we're going to add verbiage to that effect. Okay,
So what are we saying now?
As far as resume, you mean?
But no, I understand that. Is that the only verbiage we're adding?
We need something regarding the use of personal devices and restricting that during the meeting itself.
Absolutely.
And then we need some kind of a equitable decision on if there's repeated tie votes, what is the process?
Would that be under organization though?
I would just say that when you go, and I don't know whether you wanna use number 3 to 5. I think at that point, ties are enough and it goes on to the next meeting. You can live without a vice chairman for another meeting and stuff, because there would always be, if the chairperson went down, you would call a meeting immediately to have somebody, but you just wouldn't have a vice chair. And I say 3 to 5 votes, whatever you call it, whether, I'd be fine with calling it 3 votes. After 3 votes, and this would apply to any committee that is elected at that annual meeting too. If you go and you got 3 votes and you got a tie again, because more than likely, if you got a tie, it's because there was an even number of supervisors at the meeting, which was the case this time here. Then you go to 3 votes and then the chair declares this election suspended till the next meeting. And if you have an even number of people at the next meeting, you still vote it, but vote it 3 times and stuff like that. Because then this would move it on. You wouldn't sit there for an hour having an organizational meeting before you can even do anything else. That's just my opinion.
The only thing is, now like in the last case, that means that I would have been the decider at that May meeting if everyone on both sides held tight on their 8 to 8. Or there'd have been a heck of a lot of politicking going on to sway somebody within the 8 to 8. To heck with the absentee or the newcomer or whatever, but there, not getting it settled at that meeting would open up some issues to politics too.
But the question is, do we want to sit and wait for 12
I
votes
know.
instead of a whole hour?
Yeah.
When you sign on, you
That's
don't
what you
know
get the
what you're
big
in
bucks
for.
for, Dennis.
Yeah.
You vote till you get
Okay,
it.
if I move where I am, so be it.
Yeah.
I live with what is, because all these gotta go to the regular committee, and you know, something can be brought back then to address one thing too, you know, so.
Because that slows everything down, Dennis, as your acting chair. Because after this organizational meeting is when all the committees get picked. And I really don't wanna sit down, if I was the next chair with Kylie and Ron, without the vice chair's input
That's true.
on picking these
Well-
committees.
Okay, let me put another scenario out there then. Here's a recommendation that after 3 tie votes, the 2 candidates try, can't make them do it, try to come to some consensus to settle a tie. So the 2 candidates look at each other and we say, we're not sitting here for an hour for voting, because then that gives the opportunity in it, because now there is no opportunity in unless they pull out. The only opportunity is if they pull out. Well, this gives the opportunity to 2 people, and if they're unreasoned looking and saying like, you want this settled tonight, we got 8-8, we want this settled, and then they decide, do we wanna do cards? I mean, Kylie can have cards, everybody's got a coin in their thing. If you wanna have a wrestling match, we'll go have a wrestling match, if that's the way of breaking a tie. But, so there was something in there that gave, now there's nothing, now it says we keep voting, keep voting, keep voting.
Legal opinion.
I mean, you can do it either way. This is a discretionary decision for the board. You could choose to not have a chair for a while and bring it back at the next meeting. In most cases, however, what we see is, you know, we've decided that this is just what comes with being on the county board. And if you're there for 12 hours to vote, then you're there for 12 hours. That's what most counties do. You could certainly, you know, require, you come back to it at the next meeting. You could try a tie-breaking system, but just from my quick review and my understanding of how most municipalities we work with do it, is if it takes 12 hours, then it takes 12 hours.
Why can't it just be, leave it the way it is with, you know, let it play out. If it takes 12 hours, it takes 12 hours, but at any point, the chair or any other board member could recommend or suggest, hey, is there some way that you 2 candidates can agree that we could settle it? I mean, you could have it recorded, it could be documented, yeah, we'll flip a coin. And we can do it right at that meeting.
Yeah, there's a legal video record of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah, everything
then
would be-
both agreed, no one was coerced, no one has to leave and come back and get politicking
Right.
taking place, and it would be done.
And that's covered under the rules as they're written now.
Yep.
We agree not to agree, or? All right, that covers 1 through 5. Now we go to duties of chair and vice chair. Anything on that section?
Let's see.
Some of the statute, isn't it, Kylie?
Yeah.
That's what this is. The big thing, when I reviewed that you're thinking about is, the lines after number 3 is kind of where tension with this committee would be.
The one, something that I will recommend is, the duties of the chair and the vice chair. I agree, the board chairperson should be the chair of exec and finance. But all the rest of them, let the committees choose their chair. I mean, I'll use myself for an example. Chair of Board of Health, chair of zoning, chair of judicial and safety. I guess I'd like to see more people have the opportunity to be the chairs of those committees, and there's no reason why. I guess I would want to hear the rationale why they automatically are assigned those committees.
You asked my question, I wanted to ask about that.
I,
This was statutory?
There's nothing that covers statute about them
No,
specifically.
I know there
Yeah.
isn't.
There is on one.
Yeah.
Parks and rural, it's in the statutes that the board
yes,
chair
and
chairs
that's
that
why I
committee.
didn't bring that one up.
Yep,
But
right.
all the rest of
And he's gotta
them,
go ahead and be on land
let the
and water.
committee decide who they want.
Then
That was also gonna be my recommendation. I thought this was a bit odd reading that we prescribed all of these. Unless statute defines it, most counties and municipalities are gonna let the committee choose.
Okay, the history on it was there was concern about the size of the executive and finance committee. Right now you have 7 on there. That's below 9, so it's not a quorum of the full county board. If theoretically you had a separate Board of Health chair, judicial chair, zoning chair, theoretically you could wind up with 9 or 10 on the exec and finance committee. So that there's a cost and there's the fact that that's a quorum of that committee. So this was done to kind of constrict it a little bit. That's the history. To constrict it so it would never get to 9 out of 17 being on that committee.
Sure, and that could be a concern. There's nothing, though, a specific prohibition of a subcommittee of the whole having a quorum. You just have to notice them.
Right.
Yeah, there's nothing technically wrong with that. It's just another clerical task to notice that.
So there's nothing wrong of any committee having a quorum of the whole county board, right?
As long as it's noticed, no, as long as the notice is out there that this might constitute a quorum of the county board, there's nothing that's technically wrong about that.
That's the history on it though. That's the reason they did it.
You'll see this a lot of times in smaller municipalities. If there's only 5 people on whatever board, and then you create a subcommittee for a special purpose, well, you're not gonna have 2 people. You're gonna probably have 3 or 4 or 5. So there's nothing under statute that says you can't have a quorum. You just you can't move it from the realm of that committee into discussing the county board items. If it's, but you're gonna notice it anyway, so that really resolves that issue.
There was a time where there were 8 on exec and finance before this rule, but it never did get to the 9. But there was a time where there was 8 on, and there you go with an even number again, but
I'm gonna take Peggy first, and
Okay.
then we'll get back to you, Judy.
So that was my question also, is how many of these committees do the chair and the vice chair have to sit on because you're saying that they will be on the exec and finance. That makes sense actually for both of them to be on exec and finance. And I'm understanding from what you've been saying that the parks and rural planning is required. But
Yes.
then the judicial and public safety and the planning and zoning are not required, is that
That's
to
right.
even have to
That's
sit
correct.
on that committee, let alone chair it?
Right?
That's correct. That's the way I would view it, and I guess let the committee decide.
Another committee that comes back is the A committee. The county board chairman is automatically the first person on the A committee. There's another one that come back, and now the A committee is down to 3. So that comes back, so that's the another committee, and that's addressed further down in here when you do election, because you're only now electing 2 to the A committee instead of where we were before electing 3,
Yeah.
basically. But that was another, where there's conflict.
The only twist to this is now you're probably gonna be adding, it's gonna be more cost because you're gonna be adding probably more members to exec and finance.
Correct.
But one of the complaints that I have heard from various board members, it's always the same people year after year making the decisions because they pretty much monopolized all the committees. And I don't want that. I want the most input from everybody, and then you get into, well, too many, and then it really gets mumbled and jumbled up too. But my gosh, I guess I look forward to the input from all 17 people because they all have an equal vote and an equal say.
That's where I went back to reduce
Well,
the committee numbers.
Going a step,
The committee numbers, because then you narrow that down a little bit if there's a way to address that, to combine certain committees together.
and going off of what Dennis just said about and how he kind of started the meeting out on the combining. Okay, I had a suggestion too that I've seen in some counties where highway committee and property committee are combined. Property being infrastructure and so on, highway being infrastructure and so on. And I've seen counties where highway committee is the property committee as well. So there's a potential combination if you would want to do it. Board of Health and HHS, that one maybe, but you're required by law to have certain citizen groups on each. So you would have to be very careful to make sure that you're covering medical and so on for the Board of Health and Human Services, Developmental Disabilities, and some other. You'd have to really be careful with the citizen membership that you're covering all the bases in order to combine those. But potentially that would get the size of the exec and finance back down again because you'd be dropping a committee or 2 total. So might be able.
I can tell you, chapter 83, that governs highway, actually goes ahead and recommends traffic safety committee and highway committees be combined. There's a recommendation in there. We do not have to follow that recommendation, but there is language in chapter 83.
Well, I wouldn't put public safety with highway.
No, I'm talking about traffic safety committee.
Okay, but see, that's not a standing committee of the board though. I'm looking at the issue of trying to get that exec and finance thing down a little bit for cost. But there would be some possibilities on doing some combining, and that would in turn cut it back down to your 7 again.
We're not new to this. Everybody in the state, I think, has been trying to eliminate committees.
Yep.
And combine committees. I think Washera or Green Lake, one of them had told me they were trying to get down to 5 standing committees. I'm not sure if they ever did or how they did it, but
Washera is down to lower committees already. I don't know
Yeah.
how many, but Washera is down. Well, I'll just make one statement. We don't need a 17-member county board either, but that's not gonna be decided here.
No, right. But you're right.
Because in the ultimate, when we're looking at this and what I stated from the beginning of the meeting, whatever we do with it, if it's going to increase the county board budget, then I don't want to have anything to say about it. Because we're just adding meetings and stuff. I was kind of looking at this stuff here as, is there ways, because when you look on there, the committee expense is our biggest expense. That's bigger expense than county board and the committee is. So where do you chop it? You chop at the biggest one first, because if you take 10% off of that, it doesn't really hurt anybody else. But it brings it down because 10% of the biggest will always drop something quicker than picking away at 2% on everything else. And that's where I'm coming with some of my suggestions here, if you understand. I challenged Rhonda this before to drop, and then committees self-drop because we went to less meetings when they weren't needed and stuff like that.
Well, and another, as long as you're talking about cost savings, you still have to look at your own per diems too. When we get to that part.
Yeah. All right, on item B, what do we want to strike for duties of the chair and the vice chair? We'll try to stay on task and go through the list as we get to it.
Well, shall we go along with what Judy's saying and remove those two automatics that the vice chair has? That, in other words, to be a chair of something, you'd have to get elected at one of those meetings that you're on.
Yeah.
But you would still retain through the other rule that you'd be on exec and finance by virtue of being the vice chair or whoever the vice chair is.
Yeah.
So you're adding, to Dennis's point, you're adding another person to exec and finance.
Well,
by
no,
doing it.
because then when we come to the committees, I'm kind of going along with Dennis and saying, yeah, let's combine a couple things.
Okay,
And that knocks it back down again.
so under here, we're on line, which one is it?
Be the
3?
board chairperson shall be the chairperson of the exec and finance committee and the parks and rural planning committee, because that is by statute.
Yep.
And then,
And I don't want to interrupt you, but isn't there something with land and water in the chair of the board?
Yeah, you gotta be.
Under statute?
I thought,
On the land and water, on the ag committee where we have election, was that by statutes, Ken, that?
I
that
thought so, but
automatic-
I'm not a.
No, it is.
I'm asking legal counsel.
so what one is it where the highway chair is automatically,
Parks.
okay,
A member.
that's
And I
the one.
think that's,
That's by statute too.
That's by statute.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yep.
cause I don't mind changing the rules, but if we're gonna violate state statutes,
That's,
then.
that's what that's what I'm saying. I think that one, I think the one would, while he's looking, I think I looked at one time, the ag committee, it has to have the chairperson. on it.
As a member,
Yes,
not
as a
as the
member,
chair, but
not
as a
as
member.
chair, as a
Yep.
member.
right?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is it also, and maybe Gary remembers this, is it also where some of these duties assigned specifically to the vice chair, being the vice chair is, I know you don't, Judy, but technically able to draw a salary? Is that part of why they were automatically making the vice chair a chair of two committees, the same as a chair being required to be the chair of certain committees, because the vice chair can get a $4,000 salary, so it's a higher level of responsibility.
I was in the, well, you still get per diem for your public safety and zoning committee meetings.
Yes,
I just.
but I
don't
just
take
didn't know if
the
it was,
Yeah,
you know, delegated chairpersonship.
no, the history
It was
was,
just
everybody
the
was worried
ENF.
about the grand total of
Okay.
members of that exec and finance and
Okay.
trying to keep it under the 9.
Okay,
And so by doing that,
Property and zoning, or zoning and, public safety had the same rep on exec and finance, so that eliminated one rep
Yep.
there. That
Okay.
was my understanding.
it was compressing it.
Correct.
Yeah,
But now the board vice chair shall be a member of the exec and finance committee.
Yes.
Is my recommendation.
Yep.
right,
And
leave that
not
alone.
be the chair of
Right.
public safety or zoning.
As long as we can come back and make sure we got committed, that we don't have to create no extra committee meetings. That's my
Right.
concern.
I'm with him that if when we get to committees, if we work on doing a little combining, so as not to up the cost of,
Well,
county
there's some
board.
other possibilities for cost savings too, that even if we did have an additional voice on exec and finance, that there's some ideas that I have for cost savings besides just the per diems for the county board.
Thanks, Judy.
Let's see how it works.
Yeah.
Okay?
so do you want to remove number 6, or you want vice chair to be a member and not the chair of those committees?
I don't think they need to be a member. I
Okay,
think
so just
that
remove number 6, is that the
if you're
consensus?
appointed, and if not, you're
if
not.
you're not, you're not.
Now,
Okay.
going back to that,
So remove 6.
Okay.
if you remove number 6, now going back to that, do we have anything in here where the vice chair is automatically on executive finance?
Yes.
Because we
We
do.
do.
Okay, Kylie, as long as that's okay. Okay,
Okay,
I don't want to kick the vice chair off executive finance because I think they should be there.
well, they should be.
Where is that, Kylie, just so we?
That one is under E and F. Let me
Under
find
what?
it.
Oh, down when we get to the committee structure, okay.
Yep.
Okay, no.
Thank you.
Is there anything in 1 through 10 we want to address before we get into the alphabet?
So we're just removing 6.
At this point, yes. Now we're at 7 through 10, just in case, we'll try to stay focused on.
Now, on number 7, what we're saying there, what are we saying in number 7? Let me ask that question.
That means that they're both allowed to go ahead and be involved in the debate process.
They're both, the chair and also a member.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so does this mean the board chair and the board vice chair may enter, debate, speak, or vote on any issue while acting in their capacity as chair or vice chair? This doesn't open it up where the vice chair could come to, I'm gonna use land and water, come to a meeting and automatically say, now I wanna vote on this issue. This doesn't open that up, does it?
No.
Okay, then 7's fine, okay.
There are
Yes.
circumstances where they
Go
can vote, but it doesn't mean that they can automatically, if a quorum needs to be present, or there are some circumstances, but those are laid out.
Yep.
What I gathered, where this one's coming from, Dennis, is I've spent too much time talking to Andy Phillips over the last 5 or 6 years, is that if I had, as board chair, I had a personal issue with the county board, and I wanted to enter a debate with the entire county board, by rule, I should relinquish the chairmanship to my vice, so I can speak to the comment. Okay, if that makes sense. Because as acting board chair, I'm not going up and trying to throw my weight around. I would relinquish the chairmanship for the meeting and speak my piece on a specific issue that I have a passion to. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
The whole point is we don't want someone who's both controlling debate and also is trying to lead the debate.
some counties, they would call it passing the gavel, then they pass it back. Yep.
I think that's what this rule is pertaining to, Dennis. 8 through 10, anything catching anybody there? Play alphabet soup. C, in service training. That's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay,
Go ahead, Dennis, what you use?
mandatory in-service training. This means they can do their in-service training virtually because we're allowing virtually, right? And what if somebody can't make it on the date it's set? I know Danny or Kylie will probably work with them personally to do it. Is that allowable? Somebody is out of the area, a new member, I'm gonna just use a new member's out of the area, can't conflict with the date that works with the others. Is there some provision, and I think Kyle and Dan would work with this, and Ron would sit in too, to make it possible, but this doesn't say it, this says mandatory.
It's mandatory, and here I'm gonna go on a limb that scheduling wise, we try to accommodate all members so they can attend in person. How's that?
Good.
It's a scheduling issue in my opinion.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think we want them to attend in person.
In person, yes.
But on the other hand, if there's under no circumstances, they have a family emergency, they gotta leave town, why can't they attend virtually? Some training is better than no training on
Yeah.
this, so.
But this is where we go back when we had the issue, and this was addressed last time, and we won't touch it again, is what is recommended and what is mandatory in regards to this virtual stuff. Because we opened up the rope. I'm not saying anything else. We opened up the rope and we just let the rope run. There's cases where it's okay, but there's cases where it doesn't look good.
Gotta move on with the times, Dennis.
Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
I agree with Judy on use of the technology these days. It's there, let's use it. But another point though, when it says mandatory in service, that means it's mandatory that it be conducted. But I think you would have a hard time not seating a new board member that's been duly elected by the people just because they missed this thing. So the mandatory word does not mean it's absolutely mandatory or we won't seat you come the third Tuesday in April. You can't do that.
Mandatory, the
No,
actual
not
in-service itself is mandatory.
Uh-huh.
The event is.
The event is mandatory, correct. And every opportunity, I think, including technology, should be afforded
Yeah.
the newbies especially. And like you said, you would try to work with, like, say you've got 4 new county board members coming on in April of 26. Okay, you're gonna work with those people especially to try to make this in-service thing work for their schedule.
Correct.
But technology could be used, but yeah, you could not refuse to seat a person for not making it though.
We can encourage it, we can't mandate it.
Yeah,
That may. Kylie knows how to work with the words.
but the wording probably is fine as is unless you add something about the technology. The ability.
Right. D. If we're happy with that. Or can live with that. All election of county board by ballot. Is this where you wanted to add the limit of 3 votes, or? I think the discussion we had earlier, Dennis, I think it's to that point that any board member can suggest that, yeah. Okay, E, committees of the board.
There we go.
Hang on, we're going for a ride.
I have something
Go ahead.
on number 2.
Okay,
The chairperson and the vice chair in consultation with the county administrator shall appoint all other committees unless otherwise provided by the board, blah, blah, blah. Such assignments will be made within 7 days. Another thing that Wisconsin Counties Association puts forward is there is, and I know this is a one-time deal and it adds a per diem, but there's a committee to pick the committees.
Some have that.
Because then it takes the monkey off the back of the chair and it takes it off the vice chair that we have favoritism. And we only want certain people on certain committees. So if you have a one-time committee that gets together and either by consensus or majority vote, I mean, you're gonna have some newer members, maybe some older members, but at the organizational meeting, the whole board selects a committee.
Time ad hoc committee.
An
Committee on
ad hoc
committees,
committee,
yeah.
and then they do it so that we don't have people saying, well, it's the same people every year on these committees. And it takes the monkey off the back of the chair and the vice.
I can hear you coughing, Peggy.
Oh, sorry.
You wanna get my attention, just holler.
No, I wasn't, I was just because I had a little tickle there. So I have a lot of problems with this section because I know there is politics involved in people being on committees. And I think it should be random. I think they should put names in a hat and pull them out and, okay, we're pulling out for highway now. Here's the first 5. These are on the committee. Go on to the next committee, pull them out, and when you've got all 17 assigned, then you throw them all back in and start all over again. Because there is politics involved, I know that for a fact. I've been involved on the receiving end of that. And I also wonder why the Highway Committee and Ag and Extension are different.
That's
Is
what-
that by statute or
Yes.
it is? Those have to be elected?
Elected by the board as a whole.
Yep.
Okay, because there's politics with that too. I see, you know, people looking back and forth and you're gonna vote for me, right? And, you know, all this stuff. So, yeah.
My idea is just kind of a compromise of that. I agree that people should be balanced out on committees. You know, if you're on 2 or 3, and we always have the argument, some people aren't able to make all these committee meetings. I understand that when you sign up to be on the county board, you know, you're not working or sleeping 24 hours a day. So if you really want to be on a committee or you're on the board, then you'll make it work. If it's an evening meeting or a daytime meeting, you have to make it work, you know, with the rest of your committee. I think it should be more evened out. The only reason I say have the committee select the committee is then at least you got input from various people as far as, okay, you know, this person really does have a lot of expertise in this area, but I don't want it to be the same people on the same committees all the time. Either I don't have an issue with being random, but you know, then is there any structure to it? But yet everybody's got an equal vote. We're all equal.
Gary? Take a look at Walworth County sometime, Lake Geneva and Elkhorn, Williams Bay and all that down there. 11-member board, and they have a ABC system. They literally assign every board member to an even number or an equal number of committees, I should say. And it's, okay, maybe you're A. Well, A gets put on these things. Maybe you're B. You get put on these things. They've got a regular system down there. Now, maybe it's working for them. Maybe it wouldn't work anywhere else. But bigger county, but only 11 board members, and they have a actual structure. I studied it a little bit, and I knew it was probably too much for Market County to tackle that one, but they do. And
We have a current process too of what committees you would like to be on.
yeah,
I know them being advising the committee, we do look at those. And we have decided at that point in time, well, we do need some kind of structure. Somebody to me needs to carry over if they want to be, let's say highway is a good example. That's a whole different world. And when you're looking at all the engineering aspects of highway and quad axles and purchasing this versus this, to me, there's knowledge there. And so like having Dave on highway is a great idea because it provides some continuity there. Even if everybody else is new, at least we have one person that understands where we've gotten to. So I think there's value in that. So I don't want to drift away from at least having some continuity there.
right.
Well, mine was kind of a compromise, and then I don't have to have somebody barking up my tree saying, well, it's always the same people and they're always on the same committees. We in theory have where one person is removed from a committee and rotated, but if it's a 5-person committee and you remove the one token person, it's still a majority vote, and it's not evenly.
Well, you could put language on that to go ahead and say, no county board member should serve more than 3 terms on one committee.
I'm all in favor of that.
Yeah, and that puts the onus back on them to go ahead and say, rotate yourself.
But it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I know, Judy, I know. Mhm.
And Judy, you sat through this with me, and we try to be accommodating to the county board. Everybody gets the same questionnaire on what committees, and at the end of the day, when you get down to the last committees, nobody wants the job. Everybody wants the same committee, and nobody wants the rest of the committee, so that it gets to be a balancing act on how you shuffle
And some members only want one committee.
them. Right.
And that's all I would serve is one committee.
That's
Well, then they shouldn't be on the board.
Well,
They need to,
I disagree with that, Judy. This year, I filled mine out, my application, and I said after I was elected for Land and Water, I didn't want to serve on any other committee because I have other commitments, I don't have the time to do it. So I don't think you should force that they have to serve on so many, because you gotta try to work it in with, when you're working staff with committees. I understand this stuff, how we work meetings. Used to be one thing when everything was held at 7:30 at night, but then if you can incorporate staff, you got zoning, you got the top person in zoning, lives in Washara County, and she's supposed to go home and come back for zoning. That doesn't make sense at all, or sit around and kill time. So some of that, I'm guilty. I put down, I didn't want to serve on any other committee because it didn't fit my schedule. And if I'm bad for that, well,
That's what we, as chair and vice chair, that's what we had to deal with when we committed.
and
The committees,
maybe I'll be
you
a
know.
suggestion for Judy's thing. You have now 3 people sitting the committees, right? Ron, you and vice chair.
I just advise.
You just advise, okay, you advise.
Kylie's our bookkeeper
Yeah,
slash.
I do
So-
create a spreadsheet and I make sure I say, this person needs to be removed, they sat on this. And I will say that when new people are added to something, another difficult thing as someone who does the payroll aspect, a lot of times when someone's placed on something that they didn't want to be on, they simply don't show up. And we've had a few instances where we've had to then take that person off and then a new person needs to be appointed. Or they've just kind of been hanging on a committee that they haven't actually attended for quite some time. That's happened on a few committees, and that's challenging too, because we're relying on that person's input for the committee. So I know it's been the board's, you know, they really want diversity on the board. So I do agree with Dennis in that, you know, we still want board members, even if they can only be on a small amount, we still, that's still valuable because we do want diversity, even if they're full-time employees elsewhere and things like that. I just think we have to keep that in mind. Not everybody is available for tons of meetings.
So committee on the committees, I agree with. We should form a 5-member ad hoc committee. I'd keep it to 5, no more than 7. But to create that one-time ad hoc committee on committee of the committees.
so would that be chair, vice chair, and 3?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
5,
No.
chair, vice chair, and 3?
Yeah, that's a good compromise.
I think the chair should have a seat at the table.
Yes.
Assigned a seat at the table. Now, whether the vice chair wants to or not, that's up to you all.
That's why
Well-
they get paid the big bucks.
Why do we need 5? Why don't we go 1, 2 and pull another name out of a hat? Put the other 15 names in a hat, and the first organization meeting, you pull one name, and that sits with you 3. I don't think you need 5 on there. I think 3 could cover setting the committees, because that person will bring a different voice than to what's there, and that person in 2 years cannot serve again on that. Their name is removed if they're elected, so you could only get 1 on. And I'm going back to the stuff about maybe serving 3 terms and stuff, this again, so you pull the hat. Is that
Because
it?
there, the chair and the vice chair are basically the majority again.
Correct.
Right.
So that's.
Yeah. Just going to 5 would give you a little bit more transparency in the assignments.
Little more opinion,
Yeah.
little more opinion in the room.
All right, Chuck.
I want to save money.
Yeah, well, that's only one meeting
We
though.
knew, one of the things that I was not aware of was that I should basically outline whatever I want to be on. I listed my top 2 choices and, or actually I listed 4. Winnifox, Buffalo Lake, Judicial and Public Safety, and Human Service. I was 4 for 4. I know that doesn't happen to everybody, but I would have been happy to be on one of the low end, no one wants this committee. And my original thought when I saw the form was to say, put me wherever the heck you want me. But I didn't know that that was an option, or, you know, or you run into the problem where there are those committees that nobody wants to be on. I totally agree that being part of the county board is you have committee work. I think we have to do a better job at being more flexible in our meeting times. We have to be responsive to our constituents, and if that means a night meeting, that means a night meeting. If our head person in zoning doesn't live in the county, and that means they have to stick around, that's why they're on salary, that's why they get paid the big bucks, and that's part of their job. So whether or not we have a meeting at 7 at night or whenever, yes, I think the committee needs to meet and talk about what our meeting time should be. But we have to show some flexibility that we will accommodate people and we will do things differently. I just think that we need to make sure, especially for the new reps, that they understand all of these intricacies, and that when you get down to the nitty gritty, at the end of the day, there's a bunch of committees nobody wants. And it shouldn't just be, okay, Chuck will take that one, so we'll put him, okay, Gary will take that one. That ought to be almost to the in the hat situation. I would like to see us, if someone doesn't attend more than X number of committee meetings in a certain time period, they're removed. And I think there'd be a heck of a lot of peer pressure if one of our 17 was removed and one of the others was asked to, okay, Fred left, and now I'm gonna replace him with Ken. I think there'd be some peer pressure among the 17 saying, what the heck's going on here? And I think that would help, but I agree totally with Judy. Part of being elected to the county board is fitting in to what's going on out there, which means on both sides, the board has to be flexible, has to have meeting changes as needed for that specific group. And, you know, I just think we need to do a better job of our transparency on committees. I think the ad hoc is an excellent way to do it. But I would like to see incorporated when we get to the point that nobody signed up for these 8 committees or however many the number is, that we go to some sort of random draw. And if you can't make it, then you have to work on getting the meeting time changed, or you don't attend for 3 times, and that alleviates Kylie's problem of what the heck to do with them.
Kylie, when they take out papers, are there a list of expectations?
They know the meetings in general. I mean, not when they take out papers, but I can give them a calendar. People typically know the,
Well, just to
Meetings.
Chuck's point, then when they take out papers, can't they give a paragraph? These are the expectations. If you're gonna run and take out papers, these are your expectations. You'll be given assignments to committees, not guaranteed, but the expectation is you will serve on at least 3 committees potentially, or whatever that number might be.
Exactly.
And then you will be available to meet, and to participate.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Peggy first and then you, Gary. Peggy?
Yeah, so I still feel that with a committee, an ad hoc committee, you're still getting the good old boys in there making the decisions. And I really have been blackballed on committees. And I feel that it's a problem with the process. And I don't think an ad hoc committee changes that.
Gary?
Kylie,
yes.
I know when I was in your role,
Yeah.
a few times, not often, but over that span of years, a younger person would come in and say, well, if you would only have that board meet at night or that committee meet at night, I would run. Otherwise, I'm not going to. And I'd always answer to them, majority rules. And if you get out of committee, you have every right to motion to change the meeting date and time.
Yeah,
And if you can't get it through, then
yeah, the
you're still
meeting,
expected to
the
serve.
meeting dates and times have changed more times this year than they have ever changed.
Yeah.
So definitely every department head is extremely flexible, and it seems like all the board members are and committee members are very flexible. Because HS has changed multiple times, zoning has changed, they've all changed. JPS changed and property, every committee meeting almost changed for this last go around.
I mean, over like a 15-year span through there, the county probably lost 2 or 3 younger people due to moving to day meetings overnight. Not one every term or anything else, but there were a couple.
I've always asked every new committee that I've been on to try to accommodate as much as possible. You know, if what worked, and if we can't have a committee of what we can move to time, date, whatever. So I like to think I've been flexible as far as making every opportunity for a board member to be there.
Personally, Ken, you've been more than acceptable.
Yep.
So to address Peggy's point, I know she just wants it to be a random selection process. Put people on, pull a name out of a hat or whatever. I don't think by the feeling from this committee that I'm getting that's the direction, but I think, what if you had, here we go, 7 people on this committee, so you even have more input. One-time deal. And then you're gonna get some more younger, cause now if at 5, you've got the chair and vice chair and
3 others.
3 others. I just want more people to have more input on what these committees consist of. That's all.
Let me start about one more. This would be on highway committee. You have a number of people that serve on town boards and stuff. There could be the potential to get 3 town board members on the highway committee. And most of our town boards utilize the highway department for a lot of our services. That could really open a can of worms if the majority was town board members on the highway committee. When you start addressing the fact of, these are the same people that are contracted, and technically, if it involves us, we shouldn't be voting at the highway committee, should we? If it involves what's,
Well, I dodged it.
you dodged it.
actually sat at the town, I'm the town chair of Town of Shields, full disclosure, and that's always been on the disclosure. When I actually got on the highway committee, I actually stepped down as road supervisor for the Town of Shields and passed it on to supervisor, so I'd be voting on the decisions they made, but I was not initiating any of those for separation purposes. That's what I personally did with the Town of Shields when I was on the highway committee, because I did not want to be making decisions on both ends.
I do the same thing, I let Terry handle.
Yeah, so.
But in local government, sometimes it just comes down to what hat are you wearing and
Yeah.
you have to.
And
You have to
the
call it
highway
as you see it.
committee is a popularity contest because,
definitely.
because it's by state statute that the full county board elects the highway committee. So
Right.
this ad hoc committee is gonna have nothing to do with the highway or land and water, everything else, but just for clarification. So what do we change it? We're having a lot of good discussion, but we haven't decided what we're changing.
I think at least one more member has to be added to that committee to appoint committees.
So we're talking 5 in total.
Well, if they talk 5 and wanna do 5, fine. If 5's gonna
That's the
ease up the issue,
compromise.
then I'll go, I have no problem with 5, and that, yes, it's 1 meeting. It's that. But I think this gets Julie and Ken off the hook, because then those 3 can overrule the chairperson and vice chairperson.
If you want the 3 additional members, do you want those 3 to be picked randomly?
What?
This is to
Randomly?
be, this is,
Random
this
pick
is
on
to
the
be-
barrel.
This is to what Peggy was saying, that at least then it's chance. And then if I pick your name and you say, no, I don't wanna be on that, then we'll pick again. and then-
Agreed.
You can do
This,
that.
agreed.
Cause they
This
have
way
to
then
be
if-
available within that 7 days to
Right.
meet,
Right.
because we have all those assignments.
Or you and the county clerk could select those 3 individuals.
We could, but then some people could look at us as being.
Yeah, I don't wanna
All right,
get
I got
It
you.
just kind of takes a
I gotta
completely
pull the
out.
hat, and if you don't wanna do it, you'd say,
Yeah.
throw me back in and grab another name.
I still would like 7, cause I think of our board and we're very
Dennis wants to know
divided.
if you're paying the per diem.
Yeah.
I
You
will.
got it, Kenny.
I'll pay for the 2 extra people. I don't care, cause I just want
Kenny,
more
that's on tape,
representation.
right?
Yes, sir.
I'd be fine with 7, right? To me, it's one time.
It's a
One-time
it's a
deal.
one-time shot, I get
I
that.
like the random thing on that one.
So it'd be 7, 5 randoms and the chair and the vice chair, so we're in full, okay.
You know, these could all be picked apart by the whole county board.
Yes, they can be,
Yeah, you're right.
yep, absolutely
I
right.
expect them to
Yeah,
be.
I was just gonna add, I think if you study Green Lake County, they do elect more than just the 2 mandatories by the full board.
I believe I think most of the committees there
Are
are
elected by the full
elected
board.
by the whole county
Yeah.
board, yes,
But then again, politics.
yes. Are we good with 1 through 11? We won't get into the alphabet yet, but
So we're adding the committee on
ad hoc
committees.
committee of
Yeah.
5,
No, 7.
7.
7, but 5 at random and 2
Being the
mandatories.
leaders.
Yes,
We're gonna change number 2.
Yeah, on page 6.
Yes.
yes. That's where the
That's for the change.
verbiage would go in, that they'd add the
Yep.
committee of committees.
Yep.
All right, any other discussion on 1 through 11?
And you would still keep that sheet where people put down preferences and
I
everything
would
for the
hope
whole.
so. I would hope so.
Yeah, you should use that.
Yep,
Yes,
still keep that.
yeah, that way at least there'll be 7 people or 9 people looking at it and.
Eyes on it.
Right.
Yep.
Cause there is something to be said if someone has, and I will use the property committee as an example a few years back when we did the remodel and the whole thing, that we were fortunate enough to have 2 building contractors that were very sharp and saved us a lot of money in the long run by just knowing what they were on the right committee. All right, then we're going to the alphabet. F. County Board Committee Officers Committees may be removed in the same manner in which they were appointed or elected.
Okay, so now, to remove the absentee, instead of the board chair being able to do it and vice chair or whatever, it would be
You'd
this.
have to have the committee
You'd have to
meet
bring back
again.
the ad hoc committee then,
Just trying to see Dennis's reaction, but,
unless you change that a little bit, because it says in the same manner, so.
I talked too much, Kenny. I got 2:30 time.
okay. No, I don't think, and I don't wanna sound like I think I'm important again, but I think that it won't be the same manner if we change the manner. Because I don't feel that if a removal is necessary, that it's gonna require to get that ad hoc back committee. Cause by rule, if you don't show up to X number of meetings, you're subject to removal. Okay,
From the committee.
from the committee,
that'd be
yes.
better, Yes.
So I think the chair or the chair with the chair of the committee could make that decision. If that makes sense, because I don't think you have to pull the whole ad hoc committee back in if there's clear violation of our rules, just to have someone.
Make it sound like
Chairman
you-
and the chair of the committee.
Right. The original ad hoc, I understand completely, and if there's a vacancy, I'm pretty sure there's something in the rules that the chair can replace a vacancy on a committee. I think we should just leave that as is, so it'll have to be changed. If we change the verbiage on how we got the committee, we gotta change the verbiage on how we.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Unless you're gonna have the full group do it and you don't wanna
No,
do that.
I think
so
that,
Removal should be different,
I think we don't need rules. We have to get everybody in here to do everything.
right?
Okay, we're on 07, actions on the floor of voting. Does anyone have trouble with the first 1 through 6 under voting?
Well, number 6 now with technology has changed, hasn't it? For roll calls. instead of a paper ballot, now you have the clickers, the machine.
Well, I believe that's referring, what's that referring to, Kylie?
Let me see. So number one, we point out electronically. Let me read 6.
That software hasn't changed since the last time we did the rules, oh, Gary.
Well, 6 says that any member may call for a paper ballot in lieu of voting by roll call.
Well, I think that's saying that they can call for paper ballot instead of voting electronically even. Because roll call right now is electronic.
Yeah,
Yep.
But with your technology now, roll call doesn't show who votes for anything anyways, your vote is still kind of somewhat secret.
Correct.
Now, I think you had, well, before you used to roll call like that, with our technology that we have now and in the rules, after a vote is taken, can somebody request that you put the tally up on the board? of
It
each
should
of
be,
the-
the problem is it's supposed to be up on the screen. We just keep getting glitches, unfortunately. They just emailed Danny and I Monday and said they've updated again and we shouldn't have these issues. Because we let them know about the flashes that you guys experienced. And they said it's been updated, you won't experience it again. When I connect to the public screen, it should say it, but, the chair can announce it if you want it. I can announce it. I could say who voted against something. I'm more than happy to do that too.
For a while, it actually did pop up.
yeah.
Right, it
But
should.
then-
Yours should be working, Ken. I don't know why
You what I
yours
think
isn't.
of Technology some
Yeah.
days, but
Right.
that's,
But I wish we were closer, cause I can't see what you can't see, but as
Well, I'm
long as the
kinda set
chair
by you.
doesn't mind, I can just read it out loud even, and I can say, no votes were, and then read the last names if that's what you want.
I don't think we need that. I think it should be an option where we can suggest, where one member can just say up on the word of themselves, give me the no vote names.
Oh, yeah, I'm,
Where it's just for any specific thing, just give me the vote. And that is legal
yeah, cause it's all
and
public.
stuff of
It's public
disclosure.
knowledge.
It's all public record, yep.
Okay,
The only thing to think about here is we now have an audience and they can be anonymous, can they not, on
Yes, we
YouTube?
can.
What are their rights? Do they have any rights at all with regard to transparency of the board
No, the board has to publish its official actions.
in minutes?
Yes, but there is no statutory right to, live at that moment, information. They're welcome to attend in person, they're welcome to attend online, but we don't need to make the records immediately available that instant.
Okay, legally.
Yes.
but if asked at night, then it's automatically live, because now you don't know until it shows up in the paper who voted no.
Well, yeah, and that's what,
But Joe Public doesn't.
yeah, and that's permissible. The board has to publish the records of its decisions. That has to be made available, but it doesn't need to be made available that instant.
Okay. So if a constituent wants to know how I voted, they have every right to ask until the minutes come out.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get it in my head that with technology now and that sometimes I'm thinking we've got to remember that the public is watching in a new way.
Yep.
And so transparency.
So the only thing I see is on item 6, if we wanted to eliminate this paper ballot thing, or is that legal, or is it even necessary anymore?
I'm suspect of it. It almost looks like a statutory requirement.
I think it's just saying that if a county board member wants to use a paper ballot instead of using voting by roll call, that they have that right to request it. Their paper ballot would still have their name on it.
There we
though,
go.
for open meeting
Okay.
law.
Yeah.
So, just like these ballots have the names today.
Yep.
There's only certain times that secret ballot is allowable.
Right.
So I always actually have these in the county board room. I have a whole drawer of them. So I'm ready for that number 6 if it ever does come up.
Okay.
And they're supposed to do it a day in advance.
Right.
Okay.
I think we should just leave that one.
Okay.
Okay.
In case.
Then let's go from speaking on the floor.
is there any place in here? And I am honest, I didn't read that word for word. Is there any place in here for a board member to step away from the board and then they won't be allowed to vote to speak from the floor? Is, you know, like a town chairman wants to speak on an issue. Can a town chairman get up and walk away from his board seat, speak from the podium? He can't vote. He maybe shouldn't be able to vote then, or how is this handled if a town board person, there's specifically something that comes up and your town board wants to address it before the whole county board. And they tell you, since you're town board chairman or something, and we have some town board chairmen, 3 at least, maybe 4. Four for sure we have now town chairmen. If we can step away and go up there and take the podium, and then we are automatically, at that point, when we step away, we're automatically no different than a citizen. We cannot do anything more, we're no different than a citizen. And then when we back to our board seat, are we allowed to vote on that issue, or are we not allowed, if it's a business item that's on the agenda, to say? And Gary, your attorney, I would look.
That's an ethical test. I think in most circumstances, you would not be able to vote because of the conflict of interest. But I mean, there's a possibility that the issue is, you know, you don't have a conflict of interest by being a town board member, that the issue is discrete and separate from your responsibilities for the town. But you still wish to have the town's opinion on this noted. Then I'm struggling to imagine an example, but I think there could be possibilities where you might be able to. But I think generally we're in a default to, you know, if you're speaking as on behalf of the town, you're relinquishing that authority, and you're probably going to have a conflict of interest. But the conflict of interest, it's going to be a case by case basis. If you're, you know, again, I guess I'm struggling to think of exact examples, but there could be situations where it wouldn't rise to a conflict of interest.
There's been cases where Ken has been, you know, with his farmland, and he's requesting reimbursement. And he specifically says, now I'm speaking as the person that's getting the reimbursement, which will then be a vote by the committee that he's on, and he will recuse himself of that. He said, now I'm speaking as the person that's asking for this, you know, funding or whatever it's for. And then he'll say, when it comes to a vote, I'm recusing myself.
But
That's-
it's full disclosure.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's the
Maybe
key.
here's a good example. We often have, the county board is presented with a resolution. They want to ask the DNR to do something, to take some action to adopt a resolution. It'd be permissible to go up and say, I, as the town chair of the town of McCann, we considered this, we voted this way on this for this reason. And, you know, kind of step into that role of, you know, you're saying why the town took this action, and then advise the county to do the same thing. That same person could then go and vote on behalf of the county. There's no conflict of interest because there's no competing interests of those two roles.
Gary first and then Tim.
We had the example of Judy and Lance being on the county board and the causeways in their district, in their town. That's not a conflict. When they vote at the county board, they're voting as a county board member. When if they're having to take some kind of a town action on the matter, that's a separate level of government. So I don't see any conflict there at all on those kind of issues.
If you wanted to speak as town chair, wouldn't you have to sign in basically?
Yep.
So that would have been addressed beforehand then.
It'll be an automatic abstention.
Okay.
So, you know, I think we're covered it, but
Anything else under this one? All right, so we'll move to C, motions and debate on the floor. Anybody see anything in there? We'll go to everybody's favorite D, adjournment. All right, E, anything? I don't think anybody's gonna argue with me on adjournment, are they? E. I think that one's self-explanatory. Resolutions, anybody got anything on that one?
Here we go, Dennis. Compensation.
Before we get to compensations, I was just looking, and Kylie, you might be able to help me. I had talked to a couple of representatives from different counties last week. As far as anything coming before the county board, handouts before meetings, is that all addressed in our rules?
I mean, you could look at that just as that petitions, memorials and other papers addressed to the board.
Well, was Brown or Door County up there, they had some very explicit information that was handed out 2 minutes before the meeting.
Oh.
And no one reviewed it, they just handed it out, and when everybody flipped page 3, their jaws all hit the floor because it wasn't pre-approved.
Who handed it out?
Some citizen,
Oh,
and it was quite explicit pictures and everything that came with it, but the rule they adopted up there that Andy Phillips pushed, that nothing gets handed out unless it's pre-approved.
yeah. Ours say it has to be filed with the county clerk
Okay,
and then presented at the next
Okay.
board.
all right.
So everything kind of funnels through me and then when you
Alright.
sit down, it means it came through
I just
me and
wanted
then
to make
I,
sure that rule was there, because apparently this citizen came in 5 minutes before the meeting started, handed all the board members a packet. And nobody even looked at it before the meeting until he got up to speak, and then everybody's jaw hit the table when he actually did it, that they actually allowed that. But if you don't have a rule against it, then you can't stop it. All right, okay. We are to resolutions that we did already. Compensation. Hang on. You wanna start?
Hi, Judy.
Okay. Couple of things on the compensation. First of all, I think that our citizen members per diem, if we're gonna stay with a per diem, should be lowered. They don't have the same kind of responsibilities or what we have as county board supervisors. And there are, especially on a couple of committees, there are a lot of citizen members. So that's one thing I would like to see. I'd like to see the per diems for the county board reduced. If that is a consensus of this committee, or maybe try the flat rate. The attorney had mentioned, try a flat amount straight across the board. If you're on 10 committees, you get the same as the one committee or 3. I know it's unfair, but just, I'm throwing this out as an idea. And another thing, that regardless if it's before a county board meeting or it's one of the smaller subcommittees, if there is a meeting where there's 2 of them back to back, like you're talking about, that you get paid for one. You know, there are cases where, I think Gary, yours is an example for CAP. You travel to Stevens Point, you get paid for 2,
There's a committee and a board.
right?
Yeah.
You're there, you just get 1 per diem for that, okay? I would like to see that, or if it's ag and land and water or whatever, if they're back to back, anytime there's a meeting 1 hour before the other meeting or an hour after this regular scheduled meeting, you get 1 per diem.
Before I go to you, Dennis, I'm gonna
Yep.
put Sean on the spot.
Yep.
Because of, our last corp council told us, when we had this discussion before, Judy, on what a citizens member
Yep.
is entitled. And their response was that a per diem was a per diem. It didn't matter if it went to a board member or what's your legal opinion?
Well, I've not looked into this.
I shouldn't have gave her the other opinion first.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand that to an extent, her opinion, but I'd also contrast with other municipalities that I know. They don't provide any compensation to their citizen members. That's a volunteer role and you don't receive any compensation for that. I guess if she's researched this, I don't wanna necessarily say that that's the wrong opinion, but, without researching this, I'd say I don't think you need to pay them the same amount or pay them anything. There's many municipalities, counties, cities, villages, and towns where you don't pay anything to citizen members. That's a volunteer role.
Okay.
So we're being nice.
Line Blade, we didn't pay.
Yeah.
Citizen
So,
members.
so we're being nice.
Or is it in our rules that we're gonna pay them?
It is right now.
It's
It is, it's in, yeah.
It's in
We're
the
gonna get to that one.
Yeah, but you're free to change that, and at least with the municipalities I work, I'd say the majority are that non-elected, non-employees are volunteering their time.
All right, Dennis, I didn't mean to
Back
cut
to
you.
the flat fee, I'm gonna say no to that one completely because we dealt with this number of years ago in our township. A chairperson was elected in the county to settle an assessment issue from the year before, which the chairperson was before. He's elected, came and took the oath of office, never showed up for any meetings for 2 years. And we were on a flat fee. The other two board members pretty much ran the county board before the chairperson didn't come because nobody went through the process of dissolving. Flat fee, there'll be people that will do the bare minimum to get the flat fee.
Anyone else? Dave?
Yep, when it goes ahead and comes to compensation, I can honestly go ahead and say, I believe county board compensation was set by a standalone resolution. And I think to go ahead and change it, it's gotta go ahead and come through a standalone resolution. So, I don't, I don't know all the semantics of that. But we can sit here and go ahead and hammer this all day about the amounts and everything of the per diem for county board members. And it's also in the appendix there for the citizen board members, I believe. I still believe it's gotta go ahead and go to a standard full resolution to the county board.
I see, here it is, yeah, 61/2015 is the resolution.
But everything goes through resolution. When we adopt the county board rules, it's through resolution and
Yep.
and this compensation, then it shouldn't even be in our county board rules, but we
It's
put
in the
it.
And that was the proposal we talked about earlier, that we'd create an appendix for this, right? So, but even if that was separate from that, if you're making an ordinance adopting a rule by a 2/3 vote, then that's going to be senior to any resolution.
The amounts aren't in the ordinance at all.
No,
So,
Right,
yes, it's a resolution that's cited when we get to the appendixes at the end of the ordinance, if I understand it right.
Yeah.
And that's what, that was my point about 2/3 versus a majority early on. A majority could change that resolution by passing a new one, rescinding the old one, passing a new one, putting it in its place. So,
But in the appendix, there's no dollar figure.
way to the
oh,
end.
yes, it
Appendix
is,
C, it's in appendix C,
What page?
Yeah.
way at the end.
Way at the
27.
end.
27, okay.
And Philip said to do it that way, that you would have an appendix with those kind of issues
Okay, I got it.
separate from your rules, but cited in your rules with a reference.
So what does this committee do then for today?
This committee sets the rule and potentially the appendix, which creates the place where the resolution plugs in.
And being that it's fiscal, all this committee could do is send it on to exec and finance, I think. Because
Yep.
they would be the one to work it over and send it to the board because it's got a fiscal impact.
Yeah, it's gotta be vetted by
That
EFC.
makes sense. Yep. Yeah, so we're just creating the rule, we're creating the appendix, and then we're just creating the framework for whatever that dollar amount is to plug in and whatever schedule the dollar amount is paid on.
So do we need to change anything in section A 1 through 5 to make that happen?
I don't think so.
I think the salaries of the board and vice chair should change, but is that gonna be addressed in appendix?
Yep,
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
That's where we have them in the appendix, yep.
yep.
We're in agreement, we're gonna leave 1
Yeah,
through 5.
Right in line 3, reference is made to the appendix for that policy, so I think we're fine.
So the committee's fine moving on? Yeah. 2.09 committees.
There's where we could look at some combining if we really wanted to save some money and restructure too.
I'm just gonna step on a limb and I'm gonna say that Ag and Extension, Land and Water should be one committee.
They are now, except for a citizen number on 1, correct?
Well, see, that's the thing. What do we do with the citizen one? Because the citizen one ain't on the
Correct.
extension. Do we put that citizen one then on? That's one committee and they stay there. That's the only question there. And then the other part was in the ag and extension.
I believe there's some counties that put parks and rural planning with planning and zoning.
Then the board chair would have to chair that. Cause Parks and Rural's gotta be,
Okay,
you know,
that's standalone.
that's a statute on
yeah,
that
that's
one.
true.
Mhm.
Okay, but
Could be done, but it would have to be automatic, then he would chair the zoning,
And that's what I'm trying to get away from.
yeah.
can I step back to ag and extension number 2? The county board may select one additional member as a member of the committee who shall be the ag use representative seated on the Land and Water Conservation Committee. We eliminated that and we just used the 3 members are there. We did not put this on. This went back to the old FSA requirement where the FSA person was on. Is there anything wrong with scratching that whole sentence and just leaving it automatically as 3? Because with the intent, hopefully, there'd be a county board member on this committee that would have ag ties. Or is that something you can't take out, that last sentence in number 2?
It didn't change state statute, we gotta be careful how we handle that.
Okay, that's the
That would be
question.
my
This is
concern.
the state statute committee too, so that's why.
We worked on that one at length 2 years ago and we left it. We just kind of have been very lucky because of our farmers who get to, be county board supervisors who happen to sit on those.
So what it says here is if a board establishes, it shall create, so it is only for the creation of the committee. What you do with the committee is left to you.
So is it clear that are they separate committees still, or are they considered one thing?
No, they're separate right now.
They're separate.
They're separate committees, but it's the same people except for a citizen.
On land and,
Right.
okay,
Yeah, yeah.
what if one committee wanted one person to be the chair and the other committee wanted another? Now we've got another finance member, but we really don't because is there anything that recognizes land and water as a standing committee?
Yes.
Where?
That's a good
No.
question.
I don't
I don't
think
think
so.
there is.
I don't think there is.
That, I believe that's why they are together. That goes back
They're
to
together.
trying to eliminate the number on exec and finance
Yeah.
is why the 2 got combined in the first place.
So should it have just something that says that the Agriculture and Extension Education Committee shall also be the Land and Water Conservation Committee. Make it very clear that, one is the other.
Mhm.
We don't have that in there now.
Should we check with Pat? Cause I thought there was something that Pat said to me 2 years ago about why land and water should have their own section even. Is that
So,
worth?
so the issue is that we have to have a land conservation committee under statute. Whatever you name it, it can be land and water or whatever, you have to have this, this section. Then it says the land conservation committee must include a member from the county's committee on agriculture and extension. So there needs to be two, it implies there must be two separate committees, because you have to pull a member from one to serve on the other.
Okay.
But if we combine them, we just did that, didn't we?
Are we not allowed to combine them?
Right.
That's the question.
Land, water conservation and extension.
I mean, if at all possible, I'd like to see them combined. Therefore, both are covered, but with one chairperson, as we're now doing.
For practical purposes, as long as I've been on this county board,
That's
they've
what you
been
are doing.
combined. Because you serve one, you serve the other, and most of the time they're back to back anyway, so one committee is the other committee. The only difference is that there's one lakes rep on land and water.
And technically, this is the only committee that has basically 3 members that cost us, other than the Lakes Committee being put on there.
Does FSA still have a member or no?
No.
That was stripped
That's
out.
That
eliminated.
was stripped
That's
out, that's where that Ag Committee member would.
That's where, that statute, I think, is still referring to the fact when they were still in there. Statute hasn't kept up with what they've actually done.
Yeah.
That's a surprise to everyone.
But what I'm getting at is, could we have the language that just says that Agriculture and Extension Committee shall also serve as the county's Land and Water Conservation Committee or whatever, so that it's.
So I don't think there's an issue with that, just reading it here. So it says we have to create a committee on agricultural and extension.
Yep.
Because we have to have a committee, whatever its purpose is, name is, that serve the purpose of a land conservation committees. Well, they're separate mandates. And then the only thing is, it says, like I said, it says you have to have someone from the Ag Extension Committee serve on the committee for land conservation. Well, if they're joint committees, then that would accomplish that requirement.
Instead of a member, could you have the members of?
Works for me.
Yeah,
We got an attorney in the room, can make anything work.
This one I was bringing forward, made on that technicality, what you can and what you can't do, since this is a state statute committee, there on what you can and can't do.
yeah. So I mean, you'd have one committee, it's filling both roles. It meets the requirement of having someone from one on the other, because they're operating as the same committee. I see no case law that says you can't do that, and frankly, I don't know who would be the person to even challenge this.
Yeah, really.
Well, that's the intent of this rules. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get bold here, guys. That's
So, I
the
mean-
intent of this rules committee, is to combine them.
Yeah,
Unless legal counsel revises us otherwise.
So there's nothing that says that you can't do this.
Okay.
I guess I'd have to advise you, there's a very small risk that someone could say, you can't do this. And then a court could tell you for the first time, yes, we're making the formal ruling, you can't. But aside from that small risk there's no statute that says you can't do this, and no case that says you can't either.
We are a self-organized county, and so I'm thinking you can consider that.
I'm thinking you can go ahead and do it or consider it. However, does anybody know what there may be in the rules? And UW Extension is rule-based. They don't put out, there's nothing in statute about UW Extension. But is there anything in UW Extension's rules that might go ahead and create a snafu for us?
We've been told at the meetings, and which one were we told, that Pat Wagner told us, was it Adams County that runs it just as one committee, the two committees together?
Right.
I think it was Adams that runs it all together, to what I was trying to say we do in Adams County. I think Pat Wagner said Adams County does it all together. And Green Lake County, I'm not certain on, But I think Green Lake County, it sounded like they got back-to-back meetings too.
They were talking about it, whether they
Okay.
actually combined them or not, I don't know.
Okay, but I think she said Adams was one committee, they don't adjourn the meeting between. One comes in and does their first thing, and the reason where this works so good is we have an extension, we have extension part of it, sitting 2 doors down. So what we've normally done is, but now this way, so our meeting starts at 9, we cannot start ag and extension till 10 because we have a separate meeting for that. This would alleviate this thing where if we finish land and water, like we have a couple times at 9:30 already, we can just call them right in and they can come because they're sitting next door down, so it's usually not a conflict unless Pat is not there. But now she has the meeting set up where Pat usually doesn't have the back-to-back meetings where she's come from one place versus the other.
Adams County has combined those two. Yep.
I don't believe there's anything in their contract, the UW contract. You know,
Are we currently paying for 2 or 1 when they meet?
We're paying for 2.
We're paying for 2, so that would get it down
Everything's
to
2.
1.
Obviously not mileage, but yeah.
Yeah,
But
that would
yeah,
get it down to 1 payment. And the meetings evidently are not running so long that you'd be sitting there 3-4 hours
Nope, there's
for
no
the 2
reason.
departments.
There's no reason if we combine them run back to back that we shouldn't be out there every day by 11:30.
Let's
Unless it's
merge
a
it.
special thing.
Yeah, I don't see anything, statute or case that says we can't, and other people are doing it, so it.
Is anyone opposed to merging land and water extension?
I'm not opposed, but I want to point out that, you know, with the rules, the way it's written, ag and extension still has a person serve on the fair board.
Yes, so that one of the people on land and water or that joint committee will have to still serve on the fair board.
Right.
Agreed.
Right.
You know, let me ask you a question with them serving on fair board. They're getting paid to serve on the fair board.
Yes.
Yet other fair board members on the fair board do not draw per diem. Am I
no,
correct or wrong?
they don't get per diem from us, just our county board
Am I
supervisor.
correct on what it said? So there's only, so on the fair board, there's only one person that
The
gets
county
paid.
board
Yes.
member gets paid, the others do not.
Correct.
So then that committee persuade the citizen members don't get a per diem and the county board does. So that sets a precedent for anything you
Yes,
may
I
or may
know.
not do with citizen members.
Like, fair
Why
board likes
don't
to
we-
add.
Are you recording that or just edit that out?
Unless the fair pays them, that we don't know, but.
Fair board likes to
Well,
add numbers like
they're
that.
independent and stand alone, so.
It's
Yeah.
gonna make a pretty substantial difference on that. I
Correct.
looked
We
into
just
that.
paid for Dennis's ad hoc committee.
Kenny 1, he 0. Sorry.
So that's where we're gonna leave that one?
With the merger, right?
Yes. Chuck?
Question I've always had, a lot of counties have health and human services combined. Is there a reason why we don't? And if we were to combine the committees, that would not only save on per diems, but it would save, we wouldn't need 2 directors to head up one organization.
There is a number of statutorily required citizen members on both boards. So you would have to deal with that. I believe they both have independent medical directors as well. They're not the same medical director. So that's an issue. I don't know if they could combine medical directors. That's something we could look into, because I know they get paid, those medical directors. The way we worked it in Langlade is I was the chair I was the department head for both, but they were still independent. So we had one long meeting, but those we had health first. So we'd go through our board of health, all of that. The citizen members would be excused. And within 5 minutes, we would then have the human service meeting.
So
It was all the same core county board members, but the citizen members were shuffled at that time.
there's a statute right here, 251.031 specifically says a county human services board may act as a county board of health if the membership of the human services board meets the qualifications and the human services board meets those qualifications. As long as you have the qualified requirement, the medical professional, et cetera, from both board requirements, the statute specifically allows you to combine those.
So the discussion is the department heads.
It'd be a big committee. It would be a
very
very big committee.
And
But you,
long meetings.
And very long.
but you could combine them, and the statute specifically allows for you to.
We can modify some of the way they present their material, that's been brought up before too. Condense some reports that traditionally carried out, well, you know, Judy, sometimes those health department meetings can be pretty long. The question then would be to reorganize the departments and merging them into one, so then that would mean I'm dealing with two department heads. The health department does require you to have a health officer, which traditionally usually is the department chair. So that doesn't mean you can make one subordinate to the other, but it's different roles. It's very different roles. Not impossible. A lot of other counties do it.
Judy?
I think we're on two different topics here. One is combining the departments, which is a whole different animal.
Right.
And one is what to do with the meetings. For today's conversation, I think it has to do just with the meetings. If we had one person or one committee for both departments. That's-
permissible. There's nothing wrong with having multiple departments report to the same committee.
Right.
I mean, then that would,
If it's an 8-hour meeting, Dennis is gonna lose per diem.
and I get it, they could be very long, but we could have, for meeting purposes, we could have one committee.
Yeah, and like I
And
said, it
then-
worked well in Langlade. You just take that 5-minute break to where then the citizen members have changed. And then now you resume the meeting. We took a recess, a 5-minute recess, basically. And then when we resumed, it was then, okay.
So basically what you're saying is you ran your health meeting,
Yeah,
then you took a 5-minute recess, then you went ahead and ran your human services.
right.
So basically you still went ahead and had two separate departments.
But
That's
the,
one
Presenting-
way. You wouldn't have to do it that way. You could have it all as one, and all of the citizens who meet the requirements of both are together. You have a lot of people on this thing, and it's a big meeting, but you could do it all as one. But there's just gonna be a lot of citizens on it.
it'd be too hard to separate it back to back because you have to set a time and you
Mm-hmm.
cannot start a meeting prior to that time. The only way it could be is, okay, we will be starting the health and / human services meeting at 10 a.m. Whichever one is first, and then the next one would follow directly afterwards. You could do it that way, but that gets too difficult for the public to attend. They need to know a time that each one is going to meet, so you'd almost have to have them meet together.
I
But
would-
they would present their information separately.
Agreed, and we ran into, this was a turf issue up there, and that's why they decided to do it. It wasn't my decision. But I agree with you. I would rather do what Sean is saying, just have one core group. And there you go, everybody's in there. So, I know Peggy has some observations about this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that the meetings as they are now, both the Board of Health and the Human Services are very long. And if this does go together to merge them, I would recommend really toning down those reports. I mean, we don't need to know everything that every employee did for that month. And I'm talking more about the Board of Health meetings that, going through every radon thing, every rabies thing, every house that was condemned. I mean, that's minutia that I don't think should be at the meeting. We've been trying to hone down the human services meetings and asking them to not give us all the raw numbers and everything, but just give us trends. Do we have more long-term placements? Are we having more people use the food bank, et cetera, et cetera? rather than all the numbers. And we're also reducing how much of the budget we're talking about. So we're trying to reduce the length of the meeting that way. And I think the citizens that are required to be there could be joined together, but I agree that they should be all together all the time, because otherwise you don't know when to tell people to come. You know, if the meeting takes an hour and a half, you know, for one department, and you tell the other people to come an hour and a half later, well, then maybe it only takes an hour, and then you're waiting for the other people to come. So I think if you're going to combine them, they would have to be all together.
Danny?
Just on a side note with that, we did discuss the longevity of those meetings. I want to inform this committee that we do have a 12-hour upload limit for our videos on YouTube, so those could get lengthy. Just wanted to warn you guys.
12 hour, you said?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna throw another wrench into this, though. Board of Health cancels meetings quite often if there's no action items. Human Services does not cancel a meeting. I think it's been done once that I can recall. And now you're going to have, if you combine them, you're going to have the citizen members come, unless, well, I guess maybe you could still notify them that it's canceled, but I think that you know, sometimes some of the meetings are canceled and some aren't by some committees, so that might throw a little wrench in the whole system too, if one committee cancels versus the other. But on the other hand, it would shorten the Human Services one because Board of Health does cancel.
Is this gonna be a riff with department heads?
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely, but I do see a number of efficiencies that could come out of it. So just with any change process, yeah, people have to get over it. But again, if we can demonstrate there's some potential savings as well as efficiencies in operation, I think we need to look at it. Now, I've worked in both systems where they were apart, and then I was over both, and then I was under another that was Health and Human Services. And it just seemed to work better under one, Health and Human Services, for a number of reasons. Although most of it was financial. But this committee doesn't have the authority to tell me, yes, let's do this. But if you would like, I can start putting together a proposal and I can act on that.
I don't think that's for this committee
No,
to decide.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm kind of trying to feel the room and I'm getting a lot of, yeah, this sounds like something we might want to explore. So I'm for exploring it. So I'll bring that up at some other time. We might even get it on an exec and finance agenda or something to continue the discussion.
So we're in consensus, we'd like in the future for them to be combined,
The meetings.
the meetings.
But there will, then who will, okay, I get it. The
You'll
meetings will be
limit it.
combined, but it'll be one meeting followed by another meeting.
Right. but
So
if
a
you'll-
chair of one committee will chair that portion and then they'll change.
No.
No,
No, we,
That's
It'll
what
be
I'm,
the same.
so
It'll be
there's
the
two
same.
options here. You can either have a separate Board of Health and a separate Human Services Committee, and they would stack their meetings back to back with different membership for both. Or you can have one big committee, that's the Health and Human Services Committee, that does one big meeting and discusses everything. And has all of the statutory required people for both in one big long meeting.
So your county board members are the same for both,
and the citizen members will change,
potentially.
potentially.
Or all the citizen
Or
members can be on one big
citizen
meeting.
members attend the one
Wouldn't
meeting.
have to.
If the citizen members all meet the criteria, they can be on both.
Yes.
Yes.
That's, I think that was your point
Yes.
you were trying to make, as long as we get the right citizens members, we can do it as one committee.
Yeah, because you have to have a
Maybe one
doctor,
board,
you gotta
right.
have a
It's a
nurse.
statutory board, so.
Yes.
Can I just say,
Go
I just
ahead.
want to point out, it's very difficult to find citizen members for both committees, and it's very difficult to find county board supervisors to write either of those committees on their sheet. So I fear combining those is going to lead to more cons than pros. Even in the financial, I'm all about combining things and saving money, but I just really do worry about the issues that everybody will face if they get combined. I don't know who's gonna show up. I don't know if anybody's gonna show up. I don't know if all the citizens will bail out. I just don't know. I have a lot of fears about that. I think it's a good thing to look into, but maybe I wouldn't say, let's amend the rules right now with that. I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of intricacies with each of, those are our biggest committees, so I just think that there's a lot to look at with those.
We stirred the pot, let the next rules committee look at it harder.
So what are we changing then? Just the ag and
Egg and
That
land and
one's-
water.
That one's combined, that's the only one we
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna touch one more, but we can wait.
We'll touch it, Dennis.
Touch it?
Go ahead.
Why don't we throw Judicial and Public Safety Committee together with Property Committee? Because there's a lot of, when you look in here, or when you look at that, Property Committee looks at the jail, but Judicial and Public Safety looks at the jail too, and the courthouse area. Because Judicial looks at pretty much 75% of the courthouse here, and Property looks at it. What's wrong with throwing those here? If they end up extending to a long meeting, we still have the provision that if we're gonna sit for 6 hours, we have over a 4-hour meeting, and then they go, Judy, go fire me right now.
I would be all for it, except on judicial and public safety, it's just that. If it was just dealt with infrastructure, property things, that'd be fine. But you've got the DA, you've got the clerk of court, you've got all these other EMS, you've got all these other entities under judicial and public safety, and I'm not real sure that they fit with property.
Okay, I agree, Judy.
Dennis? I kind of liked what I saw with some counties where highway and property were merged, being that it's all to do with
I can see
infrastructure.
that one a little bit more because property is property, highway is highway. Judicial and public safety is a big umbrella and there's a lot of facets underneath that umbrella.
And highway and they work together now to some extent.
Yeah, they both have great capital improvement plans, budgets.
Equipment, major equipment, and that kind of thing, so.
So if you merge them, by state statute, it has to be elected by the
It'd be an
county board
elected.
of the whole.
Yep,
And there's 3 members on there?
5 and 5.
Right.
5 on each.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess that would make a better fit than public safety, I would
I'm
think.
looking at combined committees, which goes with which, I'm just looking what can go. I mean, I thought parks and rural planning could have come into land and water, but there's statutory stuff in there.
Statutory
that it
stuff
can't.
in there.
So, but I'm just looking at, I don't wanna make 4 or 5 hour meetings is what I don't
Right.
wanna make. But in the same token, when sometimes you're looking at the same things. And some of this all goes back to the fact that we have a county administrator. So we're not addressing the stuff we addressed when we were working with Gary with a administrative coordinator. Because we were working with Gary, we had to approve vouchers, we had to do this, we had to do that. We couldn't hire people. Ron has been here long enough, and I think you've discussed it in meetings before, to bring in that, yes, I can do more stuff, and I think I've given you faith in you that you can handle it. And it's like, let him go. Let the county administrator go with the ropes that he has. Yes, don't let him run away with it, but let him go with the ropes he had. Let's extend that rope another 25% or something. So we
I'm
don't.
not sure what that
So
means.
we don't look at it, because I think a lot of times, and I said this before at meetings before, I think we're micromanaging, I think we're running an administrative coordinator position here yet, and we ain't aware of it.
Just for the record, Dennis, if it was him making a decision or you, God, I gotta go with Ron.
That's the smartest decision you did, Judy. Don't go with my decisions.
Peggy, you wanna add something?
Well, when we're talking about putting committees together, the ag and extension and the land and water. So ag and extension is listed as a standing committee, but land and water isn't.
Right.
So I'm wondering about the planning and zoning committee is listed as a committee, but the board of adjustments is like, what is that, a separate thing, or could those be combined?
No.
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 Yes, those are very specific statutory committees that must be separate.
Oh,
I like the way you think, but can't do it, Paige.
So if we did combine property with highway, would we keep the 5 elected positions?
Correct.
That's it?
Yep.
That's it? Okay.
The duties of the current property committee would flow right over to the highway.
Okay, Kylie, please
spoiler. Adams has property combined with their, they call it recreation, but it's their parks committee. So that could be an option, property combined with parks and rural planning.
They have a lot more parks and stuff, though. They're really into that kind of thing more with.
Yeah, but that's what they combine their property committee with.
My only I like it, I think almost better with property and parks together
Yeah.
versus
Highway.
highway, because highway's a popularity contest.
The
for-
highway is required, the highway
You gotta have
chairman's
that.
required to be on parks.
Oh,
By
yeah.
Yeah,
statute.
but these are, to me, I think these are much more similar. I think
So-
property with parks and rural planning are.
Well,
more
the other
similar.
thing that, parks, and you've got citizen members too, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and what they know about fault stuff.
Nothing.
Well,
for
you never know.
property.
Maybe they know stuff.
Why would they have a vote on what property does? I guess that's what I'm
Right.
hung up on.
We gotta come out.
You could get an architect.
Well, whatever.
So what's the difference now?
Okay, I'm gonna talk to my legal counsel, cause he wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just gonna say, a lot of communities that we work with combined parks and property together. Something so you couldn't combine it with highway, but I've definitely seen it more with parks and property being together.
Thoughts? I'm waiting for you, Chuck, let me have it.
You don't have to resolve it at 1:20.
It's
Okay.
1:20 already?
Yeah,
I was
yes.
gonna be home at noon.
Well, you missed it. So I agree totally. We should combine where we can. We've thrown out a lot of options here. Maybe that part needs to be thought about and you come back to 2.09.
Yeah.
All right.
Just
Thought.
thought, do what you wish.
Minded. So where are we at next?
So Kylie is going to make a note under committees that we're gonna revisit that again. Possibly combining highway and
Property.
Property
and or
or-
parks.
or property and parks, correct? Anything else?
Were you gonna consider health and human services or is that kicked for 2 years?
I was gonna research that.
That's not gonna happen in this rule session,
No,
in my
but,
opinion.
Okay.
but if I do go down that path and look at a feasibility study and we decide to implement it 8 months from now, then we might have to revisit, well, what's the compensation of that committee or board gonna look like? You know, and I would actually go and do some more research on that, on the legal side of it, just to
I
make
just
sure we get
wasn't
everything
clear where that was going.
checked off.
All right, did we do executive finance yet?
Well, that may,
This wording we all change depending on what we do with.
That's
Correct.
exactly right, yeah.
so that one will have to be revisited after we make decisions on the committees.
I think we'd only be looking at how many are on it.
I think what I would go ahead and do is I would table committees until the next meeting because it's all encompassed in here.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would go ahead and do is table the remainder of it.
Mhm.
Any objection to that? All right. On to J, we'll just throw ad hoc in there because I don't think anything's gonna affect the ad hoc in there. And I think that all is self-explanatory unless somebody wants to dive into ad hoc committees. We wanna discuss other boards or commissions, or we wanna wait till next time?
That might be one we might have to revisit after we do all the committees and.
Alright, anything under miscellaneous that we wanna insert, add, or delete?
Are we going on to miscellaneous, Ken? or-
Yes, that's
There-
where we're at right now, Dennis.
Miscellaneous, okay. It's worked and we've been fine with number 4C, haven't we? And that addresses the chairperson if they're virtually using somebody else's chairperson, right? That's all worked fine.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanna go back to one other thing. Go back on number 4, since we're allowing and going to this here with remote, and we're not gonna attack this because this was hashed over too much last time. Second to last sentence, the member may be compensated at the current meeting rate. If we're allowing a member to serve on a committee and come from us, we don't really need that sentence in there, do we? Because we're paying them or treating them as a regular committee member anyway.
I would think so.
So I would say, do we need that sentence even in there? Because we're not gonna ask them, because that's just opening it up for somebody to say, well, you never come to a meeting, so you should only get 2/3 of what everybody else gets, because we're not gonna let that way we don't open that can of worms, that somebody can say that. And we might on the next election have half the county board that wants to attend virtual meetings all the time. We don't
It's a
know.
possibility. Does anybody have a problem with striking that line?
No, they have voting rights,
Or
they have.
miscellaneous 4 on the second to last sentence. Member may be compensated at the current meeting rate, they're a member, why do we need it in there?
But you want, that's the second to last line, but you wanna leave the last line in. Members are.
Don't work.
What? Well, you can leave it in there. Everybody's gotta have a feel-good moment.
Is that the guilty line?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah, I
if
think
we
so.
wanna put guilty lines in, let's leave it in there.
Because I'd much rather have this conversation with you now than virtually.
Yep.
Okay, that's just, and I'm old school. I'll be the first to
I am
admit
too.
that.
I'm the one who has issue getting on a meeting virtually. Danny's tried to show me the shortcut and I still can't remember it.
Yeah, I think you'd leave that, they should be encouraged to attend in
Right,
person.
I
I mean,
think-
I think that that's only right.
I think at the end of the day, that's why we got elected, to come down here and have these face-to-face discussions with other supervisors, and I think,
But we've been down this path.
We
We've got
have.
The technology,
Yes.
we need to utilize it, and we might have younger people
yes.
who might want to be on the board and could attend virtually.
All right, is there anything else under that section?
You do want the member to be compensated at the current meeting
No,
rate?
we're gonna delete that line, but still encourage them to attend. Did that make sense, Kylie?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think Natalie had us put that in there in case a chair could ever just say, no, that, whoever was virtual can't get paid. I don't know.
well, I think that boat sailed,
Right.
in my opinion, it's, I don't think anybody's gonna deny them that if they. Anything else on 1 through 5? 2.10 ethics and board responsibilities and procedures.
I want to ask a question about number 2. And I don't see these things because Kylie sees them when they come back. Is every county board member signing and returning one?
Yes.
And is every county board member disclosing sufficient information and they ain't just signing them and returning them with no information filled out at all?
Nope, that one everybody did a great job at doing, and then I email it to the entire board and make sure everybody's viewed it, so that way when the committees that are elected, they have full knowledge on everybody's, conflict of interest before electing people to those
As long as
committees.
they're filling it out, that's fine,
Yep,
because I was just wondering if somebody ever filled out a blank and
Nope.
just left it blank.
Nope.
Okay, then I'm not touching it.
Anything else? And we'll go to B, roles of the county supervisor. Other than that, it says 17 members.
I think we're locked into that for like another, until they go
9
ahead and do the
Yeah.
census again.
Well,
Okay.
Or a referendum.
Can I bring, yes, can I bring you that up? That's how Sheriff County reduced theirs, was a referendum. Can I bring that up? Can that happen anytime? And then it applies for the next election? And anybody can start that, or what? Can somebody give me a basic rule of running a referendum to reduce from 17 down to some other number? And does it have to be an even number, anything? Or where do you point if somebody does that, or how?
not at me, Dennis.
Okay.
Research this before, give me a quick second.
That's above my pay grade, let me tell you.
I think the starting point is that you'd have to go ahead and have a population study related to your county supervisor.
Well, I wonder what Sheriff County did to start theirs. I think
I
they
don't
just,
know.
I thought it was
Well,
just a
Sheriff County-
citizen referendum. I thought it can just be induced by a citizen, like them bringing up a referendum and
Yes.
a petition, a certain amount with a petition, and
Yeah.
then.
Gary can probably help me out on this one. Wasn't the Washira one where some people questioned the county board, why do we got this many members? And the county board wouldn't support reducing. So then there were some certain individuals that went out there, started a referendum, got the vote and passed the referendum, and then they were bound by the decision of the referendum. Is that correct, Gary?
As I understand it, Washington County Board was forced into reducing the size of their board by the people
But I think they were reluctant the
through a
first time.
process.
Yeah.
They did not do it by their own choosing.
How'd they handle the township issue?
Well, they had to reapportion the districts. Instead of say representing 1,000 people each, maybe they had to represent 1,500 people each because they had a smaller sized board. Then
Who's in charge of the redistricting?
they had to.
That's Megan's job up here.
We do it every 10 years at the
Yeah.
county level.
They were forced to do it a second time. They had their 10-year census and they did it.
Data to support it.
And somewhere in the middle of that, like maybe halfway through, this thing from the people came in and they were forced to do it again, to reapportion the districts.
Yep, via referendum, 25% of the individuals who voted in the last election for county board.
25% of the signature? You need 25.
Yeah, so if, let's say, I don't know, 11,000 people voted, probably not, actually, that'd be a great turnout. 6,000,
Turnout.
6,000 people voted in the last election where county board was on the ballot. You need 1,500 people
Yeah.
to sign.
To sign the resolution.
Yes.
So it had to be a big effort.
Referendum.
It does cost money too.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to pay the
Well, there
filing
was
fees.
about that many people from Crystal Lake when we had the discussion about the Washira
Okay,
County.
don't test Crystal Lake.
I won't.
We come through in different ways.
It's probably something that if people really want to push it, it's better to do it at the time of, right after a census is
Right.
taken.
Because then you're paying to have to do the county has to do the redistricting at that point anyway,
Right.
so.
All right, is there anything under roles of this county supervisor? And we'll go to confidentiality. That one's pretty safe where it is. D, county administrator. Administration, not you personally, like in general.
This accurately describes the separation of powers.
Ken?
Yes, Gary?
Okay, another one from Phillips, and maybe this is the place, now that we have county administrator, but he emphasized that it's important to have a designated spokesperson for the county.
Public
So the-
information officer.
Well, so be it the administrator, be it the board chair, that he remember that? Yeah, that there's a person designated, so you don't have three different things going out to the press in case of the flooding or a big tornado comes through or some big incident.
And it's contextual, because
Yeah.
again, if there's a health issue, Jamie is the PIO.
If it's law enforcement, it's the sheriff.
Related, it could be Aaron,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Does the county have, and maybe this could be something that you, doesn't have, you could adopt a crisis communications policy?
That might be the way to do it.
Yeah, we've written them for other municipalities, we could have one drafted up pretty quick. But it just, you identify potential types of events and you say who's in charge, in, being the spokesperson for those type of events.
He just didn't want three different stories coming out to the press
Right,
about an
yeah, you have to be
incident.
able to control the information, yes, absolutely. Yeah, we could write something up and kick it around.
Yeah, something that never happens in Marquette County. Complaints from the public.
I think we should develop a department just for complaints about highway and potholes specifically.
It can't be that bad, no one's threatened to sue me yet.
Weed cutting, add that on.
So,
weed cutting.
Yes, I did get a question about that from the county roads, from Newton Town chairperson. Brought up this thing on the county roads and,
I usually have a message on my machine every morning. And
what do you do?
it's like 3 in the morning. It's like, who's up complaining about potholes at 3 in the morning?
Somebody who just hit one driving home from the bar.
Yeah.
Alright, anything in 1 through 5 we wanna review? I'm trying to get through this before Dennis has to leave, so at least we get a once through. Okay, then we're going to Appendix A. Anything in A catches anybody's eye? Alright. And if we miss something, we can go back later, but I'm trying to hit them all. B? This is the one where it says the citizens members will make the same rate as, if I'm reading that correctly. If you wish to change that perspective on life, then this is where we'd have to amend that.
I think it should be changed. It should be reduced. Harley, do you have any background on this? As far as with other counties or any information that you can share with us on this one?
Was it on the spreadsheet I put on SharePoint? Let me look.
Yes, it was.
For citizens, I'll take a look. I will say quite a few of our citizens do not take a per diem, which is great.
No, Board of Adjustment will fall in this same category here, right? Because that is a citizen.
Kylie, what committees do we have citizen members on? Human Services, Health,
HS, health,
Economic Development?
yep.
Parks.
Yeah.
Cap, we
Cap
don't,
has citizens
Yeah.
and.
cap is just one technically.
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustment,
Yeah.
CCS/CST, ADRC, transportation.
Transportation.
A lot of those
No.
human service things.
Let's go back to transportation one, the one that just had them. Did they have a meeting already this week or did they have a meeting?
You thinking of
Uh,
traffic safety?
Traffic safety one. Are members on our county board members reimbursed for coming to traffic safety ones?
Yes,
They are.
there's, I think only three,
Two of us.
Right.
two. I think it's Judy, Dave, but sometimes Mike Raditz will be there and then he does get paid as well. So 2 to 3.
No.
Out
But
of state, right?
If people show up and they're representing their municipality, we do not pay them.
If people show up representing their municipality, so then,
Their municipality pays for them.
Mike is,
Mike Raditz, he shows up, if he's showing up as highway chair, we pay
okay,
him.
see there,
If he's showing up as town of McCann chair, we do not pay him.
okay, that's why I was wondering.
It depends it depends on how he signs the sign-in sheet,
Okay, so there's a matter of opinion.
right? But like Mary Walters attends that one for Oxford, we don't pay her for that.
She shouldn't.
Right.
And
that's a
employees
quarterly
certainly
meeting.
don't get paid, and the state people don't get paid.
Right, yep, and that's just a quarterly meeting. That one's an inexpensive one.
Well, it sounds like according to the attorney, many of them, they don't get paid anything as citizen members.
Right.
So I think we're being overly generous. I guess I'm not opposed to compensating them somewhat, but I don't think they should get the $75 that the county board gets. And I don't think the county board should get $75, so.
For committee meetings? I agree.
But
I might pose it to you this way. Do you think you'd lose anyone if you didn't pay them? A
we
citizen
can't
member?
get them now.
Okay, then if you're in the same place, whether you pay them or not, then I err towards not, but.
There might be, I did notice that there was one individual that did draw a pretty substantial wage last year as a citizen member. And maybe that person will,
I would advise that citizen members be paid mileage.
Yep, that's standard, even with my municipalities that don't, they get reimbursements for mileage, if they go to a conference that's approved by the committee, they get their meals paid for, you know, that kind of thing, but just doing the normal job of showing up to meetings, no.
So that's basically half of what it has been.
that's the thought of the committee.
You know where I stand, Julie, I don't have to.
No, Kylie,
Yeah.
how many people from Economic Development went ahead and got paid last year?
Not many, almost no one takes a per diem for
That's
economic
what I thought,
development.
yeah.
Same for Visitors Bureau, almost nobody takes a per diem for economic development, Visitors Bureau. Almost nobody takes a per diem for that. I don't think anybody even does.
We've always thought of the fair board as something kind of separate.
Yeah.
We have a representative to it
Right.
that we pay, but the others don't.
Yes, they did ask to be paid at one point and the county board denied it.
Okay.
Okay, you all have the power. You're on the committee. What do you wanna do?
Well, I'll take one. I've never took it, but I don't think you should be paid to serve as a representative on your Lakes Committee. Your lake is normally in your township. I think you should be treated as a citizen in that, as a township, and I don't think, no lake committees. I've never taken the pay for Tuttle Lake, and I don't think you should be taking pay for that, just because you're a county board member to represent on lakes. Yes, it says when they have a lakes association, supposed to have a county board rep and a town board rep. I think that would be one that should probably be shut out.
Can we address the first one
I
first?
think so. I think.
Let's do the
you-
citizen
you-
committee members
Let's stick to the
first.
citizens on the ad hoc, or the rest of the committees. Cause that's statutorily, we have to put those on there.
Yeah, we're, for the lake districts.
We're crossing a proverbial line, I think.
Cause I asked the same thing at the last rules committee, why
Could,
we have to even have them on there.
could we drop the citizens, any citizen committee, could we drop that to half of what the county board pays? That would give them something that we wouldn't hopefully have total exodus. But I mean, it'd be interesting to really find out the total dollar figure we do pay out for a year for every citizen committee. If we could drop that in half, they'd get their mileage right, you'd be favored.
It comes out to, I think I figured it out, it comes out to about 10 or 11,000 a year
For the total.
for citizens. Kylie, we could get that.
Yeah, I'd get it from Melanie, to be honest.
Huh?
Melanie could run it a lot faster through her
Right,
program.
matter of fact, I would have to go through and add it up. I do have it on here somewhere,
You
but
don't
it's,
have to- I just like to know.
but yeah, I would be somewhere in that 11,000, 10,000, somewhere in there. That's why I thought it was quite a bit. There's a lot of people that get smaller amounts, but then there's some people that get fairly large amounts, so. But that's about the ballpark figure.
Hey, you got a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that if you're going to pay any citizen, I think it has to be the same across the board, or else we might get into trouble with that. And I think it might be easier, instead of paying mileage, to just say, pay like $25 per diem for them. Because then the mileage is kind of tricky sometimes. I don't know. That's what I think. And then I think our per diem should either be significantly less, like 25 to 50, or it should be just a flat, like 2,000 per year. And I know that you think that some people might not work as hard as others. It would help with the allocation of committees, because it might be more equitable then with people being on different committees. And it also, if you have someone who's not showing up for meetings, you've already discussed that there's a method to remove them. So,
You can remove them from the committee, but you can't remove them from the pay rate.
right. I know it.
Right. So you can give them no committees, but still pay them.
Yeah, I know that's a risk, and hopefully there would be enough public opinion about that that they would change their ways. I don't know. Yeah.
What do you wanna do on citizens, members of committees? And Lake District is a whole different ball of wax to us, for the fact that it's required, and Corp Council can holler at me anytime, but it's required by law as a taxable entity that there is a county board rep on there, not a citizens member, a county board rep. That's the difference in the way I see it.
If you're not gonna eliminate their per diem outright, I would say reduce it by 50% of the county's per diem rate. That way, we're not setting a number here that can be established whenever, or if it changes. So basically, it's just half of what anybody else would get that's actually in the county board. Plus mileage.
Anyone else got an opinion? You wanna set it at that for now, or? I just chair this committee, I can blame you guys for everything.
Any other thoughts, you guys? Should we have it a number, or should we have it a percentage, or?
I think what we should go ahead and do is approach this a little bit more cautiously. And go ahead and have Kylie go ahead and give us the average amount of citizen members which go ahead and attend consistently the meetings. And then after that, go ahead and find out how many people are consistent with coming to their meetings. And then go ahead and make a decision after that.
And what does that prove?
What does that prove? It proves, it's like she's already went ahead and said, like your people from economic development who are on that committee or are citizen members, do not go ahead and take any per diem. People from, your visitors bureau do not go ahead and take per diem. And I agree, if we're gonna go ahead and do this, it's gotta be equitable across the board. So if you got two components there that aren't taking any per diem, and you got a whole bunch of other ones that are, we have to be equitable with it.
I agree, you have to be equitable with it, but if everybody gets the same, if you choose not to take it, or if you choose to take it and donate your money to somebody, what's the difference? Or if I choose not to accept it, that's on me. Everybody gets the same, whether it's $50 or $25 or nothing. But if you choose to not accept it, that's up to you. If the people on economic development don't take their money, they don't take their money, but it has nothing to do with the flat amount that we should be giving out, because the next citizen member on economic development will take the per diem every time. I think you gotta set it, whatever you want, if it's a percentage or a flat amount, and be done with it.
No, I don't agree. I think we need to go ahead and have hard numbers and data in front of us.
Anyone else? We can set a number at our next meeting. That doesn't, we're definitely not gonna get done with this
Yeah,
today.
doesn't
Yeah,
matter to me,
yeah, right.
but we need to make a decision.
50% of what the county board pay at the given
We're in
time.
consensus, we're gonna cut it, we just don't know to what. We're in consensus, we're gonna cut the citizens' compensation, we just don't know to what yet.
I'm saying 50%.
Dave, are you in agreement with that?
With 50,
That it can be,
it
no,
is-
that it can be.
as
the
long, as
compensation-
what I'm saying is, as long as it's equitable across the board.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
all right.
Appendix C.
Just a recitation of resolutions.
That we can't do anything about.
Most of those are gonna be issues for finance to decide for.
So this committee doesn't make any recommendations to exec and finance
It could.
Yeah. So if you wanna
regarding
debate the per diem-
resolution 61-215?
If you wanna debate the per diem, yeah, we can.
Dennis?
I would be in favor of changing that. Well, you know where I said before, my opinion would be $75 per meeting. I don't have a problem and maybe reducing the 75 for exceeding 4 hours, maybe going to the half of that. I'm just gonna throw numbers out there. Committees, I don't think committees should get paid over $50 a meeting. And I think citizen boards and commissions from citizens committee should be paid 50% of the standing county board rate. And they'll throw darts.
So you're saying $75 for county board meetings,
50 for committee meetings
50 for committee,
and 50% of our county board salary, in this case, 50% of 75.
for citizens.
committee.
You said if it goes past 4, they get half of whatever the original balance was?
What?
We get double.
Double.
And, on the 4 hours?
Yeah.
On the 4 hours, I say for meetings exceeding 4 hours, half of the 75. If you
Okay,
wanna
so
hear-
yeah, so if county board goes over 4 hours, you get 75 base and then
Plus another
3250
Yes.
as the half. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Peggy?
Well, I was just gonna say that I think $75 is an awful lot to get paid to come to meetings, some of which only last a half an hour. that's $150 per hour that you're getting paid. And maybe with the combining of these, the meetings would go longer, but I think $75 is way too much to get paid for a meeting.
I'm gonna pick on you, Dennis, cause you know, you're gonna pay me $75 to come to a county board meeting. We average what, 20 minutes to an hour? And committee meetings, you're gonna pay us less for that take up to 4 to 6 hours.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna say. But when you come to a county board meeting, you have to look, or if you're not looking or studying, when you come to county board meeting, the packet that's Kylie sends out, if you want to read that from start to finish, I don't think you can read it unless you're a real speed reader or skipping lines. You can read that in less than 45 minutes to a half an hour. So you're putting you're doing pre-meeting preparation. You're also looking at every resolution that's coming through. If you're doing your work properly, you're looking at all the different committees. Land and water, I don't have to do much prep or egg meeting, I don't have to do much prep to come to that meeting. And there's not a lot of prep that's sent out to us beforehand. When Kylie sends out the county board packet beforehand or puts it on here, there's a lot more prep to be done. And we are making official decisions at a county board meeting where any other decision is always only a recommendation. We are not making very few direct, yes, we are making some direct at committee meetings, but that usually don't involve county funds. That's usually backing it up with something else, namely deer damage and that, where we're making, that's where I'm coming with that, Ken.
I'm just trying to understand your logic, Dennis. Judy?
I just wanna know how this is gonna be logistically. So we as a committee can pick any number.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a recommendation that will go before exec and finance because it's got a financial impact. Okay, I mean, that's kind of what you're saying. So then if it's dead at exec and finance and none of these ideas pass on to the full county board, that's it? Is that how this process will work?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not the governor, so I don't have a veto pen.
I guess I'm just trying to,
I would guess that executive finance is gonna chew this up just like we did. And either tweak it or reject it or pass it, I would think, and they would go through it line by line, just like we did. Would be my assumption at this point.
We have a mechanism, if the executive finance doesn't pass it or doesn't support it, it still can go to county.
Right. It could still, yeah, I agree.
And you would need two signatures set out to the resolution to bring it to county board, right?
Well, you're gonna be probably either overturning the current resolution or amending that resolution itself. And there is a fiscal impact, and we needed to make a decision before the budget is set.
right.
But you know, this is gonna get tore up in executive finance, by the president of executive finance committee. And my presumption is it's gonna be, if it makes it out to executive finance, it's gonna be voted down at full county board. That's just my
I
prediction.
guess that, let them make the decision. I mean, that's, we're a democracy, right?
Yeah, we're making recommendations and what happens with them after that is beyond our control, so. We do the best we can with what we got.
Yes, we tried it before, we lost, so this is our chance to
Well,
step
we
up
did
the
pass it.
part of it.
No, we did pass to reduce it, but then it was brought up that this is a separate resolution and we cannot do it.
Yes.
But we always did it that way before, but anyway. So what are we doing? Are we going to make a recommendation? Because I also want to have a recommendation someplace that an hour before a meeting, if you have to call a special meeting for whatever reason, like property would call a special meeting prior to county board. If it's an hour before a meeting or an hour after county board or any committee meeting and there's a special meeting called, that you don't get your extra, you don't get two per
That
diem.
is in the rules.
It is.
No,
The
No,
30
it's at
minute
the
one.
discretion
They
of
can
the-
vote to determine whether they get
Yeah.
paid or not.
Nobody's ever, I mean, we've had somebody vote no, but the committee themselves.
Committee as a whole has never taken the
Yes.
per diem.
I think we should take the committee out of it, then you just, if you're there, you gotta come an hour before or stay an hour late. You get your $75 and you're done with it, or 50 or whatever we decide. Wisconsin Counties Association has that too, is one of their suggestions.
Can we put these together? We're gonna be back one time for sure, yeah.
Right.
For the
We
rules.
get a rough idea, and as Ron said earlier, the counties association is willing to look at our rules
Well,
and
see, that's,
tell us how crazy we are.
that's why I think put these things together, get the numbers we toss, put this together and then have county association, because maybe somebody's gonna come and say, you can't subject a committee to 50% pay because you spend as much time as a committee meeting as you spend the rec. Maybe they're just gonna say that's not fair.
Well, I wouldn't even look at it that way. I just, personally, my recommendation would be just to cut your per diems down to $50 across the board. So $50 for the county board, $50 for whatever committee you might be in. And that, when we looked at this a couple of years ago, looked at the spreadsheet of other counties and what they were getting for per diems. Sometimes it's apples and oranges, I get it. But we were in the top third of the state in per diems.
We were.
We were. So when I look at that, I have to then think, do we have that much more work than, let's say, Washera in the amount of time that you all spend doing what you do? And I'm thinking, no, it's gotta be about the same, especially for a county this size. So, but again, there's apples and oranges, different counties.
Get the opinion on slashing everything to 50.
So, well, that would be my recommendation. So then you don't have to figure out, well, this committee does actually more work, so you're getting an extra amount. No, this is just $50 per diem, period, for county board and your committee meetings. The citizen members then get 50% of that amount, which would be $25 plus mileage. So I think we're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be personally. But that's just me.
Can you, get the fiscal impact, what that would be? Because you just reducing from 75 to 50, just going off the numbers you have in your budget this year.
Yeah.
Just reducing that and giving us a number.
Well, I have the budget projection of what your per diems are gonna be. I mean, it's static right now at $75.
Yeah, well,
You're gonna see that over the last couple of years, we have reduced because a number of committees have canceled. It used to be
Yes.
in that $100,000 range per
yes.
year for these per diems. Now we've come down somewhere in that 60,000-70,000 range. So we have reduced it by canceling meetings.
Okay, so what I budgeted for 26 for just the county board per diem is $16,575. That's based on your $75 an hour, or your $75 per meeting. For the per diem, then for standing committees is $30,000. And then for other boards, it's $20,000.
See, we're in that 60-some thousand right now, probably.
66,575.
Yep.
And if we go from 75 to 50, we're gonna cut a third off.
30% or 33%.
Times 66%.
Just
We're gonna go down to $44,000, 43,939.
And if you cut the citizens,
Well, that I didn't have figured.
Put them at half, like Ron said.
Yeah, then.
but we can get the numbers like Dave is saying and.
Yeah.
But anytime I can save $50,000, I'll take it, because our budget is that.
Cause this would drop it down to less than $40,000.
Yeah.
And that would be that
We're getting there.
can be attributed to. That can fill a half-time position.
But wait,
Or more.
I have more. Vice chair and chair
That's right.
What would you do there?
So are we just having this discussion, or are we gonna kind of have a recommendation for the?
Whatever you wanna go with this, Judy,
Shoot,
I'm
Judy.
listening.
Well, again, I'll use the same argument I did 2 years ago on the chair and the vice chair. Now that we have an administrator versus an administrative coordinator, the chair is not, and the vice chair is not involved as often in the decision-making. Yes, the chair has to attend additional meetings, and yes, the chair has to sign contracts or review contracts and that sort of thing, but Ron has the ultimate authority to do it. So the chair should get compensated something, because there are additional duties, but, you know, it was at $5,000 when there was an administrative coordinator. I think that that should be reduced. What that number is, I'm just gonna shoot out 2,500, half of it. Maybe. The vice chair, they shouldn't get anything, but give them $1,000 or whatever. Give them something for that position. There are some additional duties there, but I just don't see the need to have it as high as we have it right now, because we're in a whole different arena now with an administrator. Committee? Cause I would, as chair, I argued, or as vice chair, I said they shouldn't get anything.
So logistically, if we're cutting that to 2,500 and 1,000, do we still want to have this paid in monthly installments? That seems like just a lot of administrative work to send someone an $80 check a month. It seems like we probably clean that up by just doing a one-time payment
At the end of the year,
or at the beginning. It doesn't, up to you guys.
I would
but-
say at the end.
It's just broken out into it's it's not tough.
Oh, cause he's already getting per diem, so it just, okay,
Correct.
Yeah,
that's probably not, that's probably not an issue.
The
Yep.
whole payroll's monthly.
Yep.
Right now.
So that's not an issue then.
It's not bad,
Have
but
you
when
heard of
people
it?
wanna pay citizens a different number, like 33.75 compared to that, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you guys are making me do 5 times more work.
It's getting, yeah.
But I'll obviously do it.
Or just go back to the citizens, if it's 50, give them 25, or if it's.
Round numbers.
Round numbers.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my suggestion on chair and vice chair, so now, Ken, you can swap me on
Well,
that.
I do agree slightly with your analysis of the whole.
What?
Yeah, don't get excited.
What?
Not done yet. But, you know, it does take time. Ron's been a joy to work with, trust me. It's very minimal that I have spent any time. Once in a while, we have a chat, but nothing great deal. Now, would I quit my full-time job and work for the county for what I'm making? No, none of us would. At the end of the day, and to quote the late Howard Zelmer, when I took the county board job, it's only 2 or 3 meetings a month. He was lying. But there is a lot of running around that goes with the job, whether I think 2,500 is enough. If the chairman's actually doing their job, I think you're getting a real deal for $2,500. You know, I think Jody can be a bigger, she's not listening to this, is it?
No.
She can be a bigger pain, because at the end of the day, the chairman's responsible for all the taxes and all the payroll and everything else at the end of the day, so. $5,000, I'm not opposed to cutting the rate, but I don't know if I go all the way to 2,500. How's that?
What do you think about 4 and 1?
I wouldn't want anybody else to have to do the job, and, you know, I say, and I'm just gonna pick on lake districts, cause if I really wanted to make money as a lake district, I would run as just a commissioner for Montello Lake, cause they pay 3 times more than I'm making now, because they can't get people to take the job. They're trying to bait them in with money just to get people to fill them. So, in a nutshell, do I think we're overpaid? No, because I'm still full-time employed, you know, if I come down here for this hour-and-a-half meeting that I came down for today, I lost money. And it went more than an hour and a half, so I'm still losing money, but I'm still here and I'm not going anywhere. How's that? So the compensation just makes it feel better at the end of the year. Corp council wants to pay me once a year. I'll take that check, but Kylie's gonna hate me because it's gonna be a nightmare once a year when I turn in the receipts, but that's up to the committee as a whole. I'm here to make sure everybody's opinion gets heard. And
Kenny, I think honestly, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think honestly where some of these salaries and some of these numbers have come into play was, it was clear when Catherine McQuinn did that wage study a number of years back. And you've seen some, and this was posted in the Tribune, and you've seen some figures that went from a low figure to a very high figure. I think that's some of the issue that created some of this. And it was the way our salaries were structured. It somewhat had to do with maybe the way our committees were assigned. But if you took the bottom quarter or the bottom quarter and compared it with the top quarter, and I'm taking out the chairman's extra salary and the vice chairman's extra salary, there was some real discrepancies between the top and bottom. I'm not saying that these top probably didn't earn every penny they did, because maybe the bottom didn't earn every penny that they got paid. Because when you come to a meeting, and if you come, and I'm not saying anything, there's some people that come with probably very little research, and some others come with a lot of research. But who's for us to decide who's doing research and who's doing not research? That goes back to your community, where if you don't think your member's doing your work for you, then it's time for your community to step up and oust you. And I think that's where some of this maybe soreness comes from. And I mean, Peggy referred to being a black sheep. And yeah, I think there's probably 3 or 4 that are black sheep.
I'm gonna defer and go along with some of Ken's comments here, just give you folks some food for thought here, just something to go ahead and think about. And, you know, my predominant committee is highway, and I do a lot with highway. I could go ahead and tell you, just in the last week, I went ahead and probably did 4 hours and probably put on 125 miles, going ahead, checking complaints out on the roads. All right. I don't ask for any compensation for that. To me, it comes with the turf. But when you're starting to go ahead and, when you talk about prep time and everything else like that for the meeting, you know, that's nice to go ahead and see that paid. But then again, too, like other folks, you know, I don't say I work full-time, but if we have a meeting when I've got a truck schedule to go ahead and come in, I'm actually losing money, because I've got to pay, what I would normally do, I got to pay 2 guys $200 to go ahead and unload that truck for me. So it's just food for thought, folks. It goes both ways. It really does. You've got to go ahead, take and stop and take a large consideration in that as well. So.
I agree with him on that you're taking a loss. I can either lose being at the farm, losing money, or I can be here
Yeah.
losing money. But, it's our civic duty to do this. It's not about the pay. And it's nice to have some compensation, but you know, there's no one holding a gun to our head saying you gotta take this position. And it's a thankless job at times. But I guess at the end of the day, it's not about the pay. It's about us doing it because we want to do it for the right reasons. So that's my 2 cents. And yes, Ken, I do think you should get compensated something.
No, and like I say, Wyndon, Kylie's not here anymore, but the last time the county board got a raise, 16?
I think that was 16, yes.
16? Okay, and every other employee of the county has gotten a raise every year or left, one or the other, for the last, let's just say, a decade. And we basically froze our wages for the last 10 years. We've saved a lot of money by reducing the number of meetings, as we all know. And if we start merging more, we're gonna save more. So it's gonna, and I hate to say it, but you know, you get to a point where if you cut per diems, and you're absolutely right, Judy, it's not about the money, but are you gonna get somebody that's gonna come in without any money? You know, there's a fine line you're playing in between, does it justify the cost of coming down here for 2 to 4 hours, or whatever it takes, you know, so I think it's just something we ought to consider. And that's my 2 cents worth.
I think what come out of this is honesty.
Yeah.
People stating their points and stating their feelings, and you can go either way with this. You know, yes, you're gonna hear the time, well, if you're gonna cut these pays to this pay, what kind of people are you gonna have come and serve? Because yes, there's probably some, if we go to these new rates, there's probably some county board supervisors that are not gonna run next term around just because of that. And if that's our goal, to oust somebody from the county board, then that shouldn't be our goal.
Then we're going it the wrong way.
Then we're going
I
about
agree
it the
with you
wrong
on that.
way. But I think there's a point where we also gotta look, we're asked, yes, Ken, if we don't pay our people or give our people a raise, we're not gonna have anybody here. We've had issues and stuff with this. But I gotta think that too, that, when you see what you're asking, when you see some of the different things in the budget, and we don't have control about a lot of this stuff. And Joe Q taxpayer out there sees this and they see, we go to county board meeting and you met a half an hour tonight now, 75 times a half is $150. Will they step in to do it or won't they? That's the fine line. And will they be a person that Marquette County wants to step in to do that or not? Because I don't think we want to open the door that our quality of the people who run for county board goes down. But when you do the other way, when you see some of these numbers, I'm sure we're gonna hear it at budget and finance, I'm sure we're gonna hear when we start going through that. Different people, we still got different heads that are looking for some more money and stuff like this. And at the end of the day, Ron's gotta put something together that keeps us solvent. And when you look in the green book, what compares us to other counties, we don't look very good all the time. As far as taxes per citizens and stuff like that. We look pretty bad on some stations and in regards to taxes. And you get that call every December when the tax bills go out. Why are my taxes up and where do you point? And when you pay your tax bills, there's 2 places that stand out where your tax dollars go. And it's schools and county government. The other entities, townships get very little of your tax dollars and stuff, and it's being accountable to everybody. And yes, I think most people probably earn the 75, but in return, are we working here for the salary or are we working here because we had a passion to do government?
Yeah, that's what it comes, that's what I said, that's what it comes down to, and, you know, you can say, well, if we cut it down too low, we won't have good qualified people. And I'm not gonna jump on that train, cause I disagree with, you know, that the money is a factor. I think you do it because you want to do it, and if you are doing it for the money, and then it's the wrong reason to be doing this, and I'm not gonna dispute that we've had or have people that are doing it for the money already. I think my observation, I've seen that. And are they able to make a informed decision any better than ones that would get paid less money?
All right, what's your recommendation then? We're gonna stick with Judy's line, or what do you guys wanna do?
I think we need a little bit more research on the numbers, what it's gonna play, and come back to another thing. I think another thing, and I don't know how this would be, is there a way of getting, from the counties, I know the townships, the WTA did this number of years ago, where they posted all the salaries and gave you a median, a high, a low and stuff like that. Is there a way of us comparing? Now, God, we can't compare ourselves to Milwaukee County. We can't compare ourselves to Dane County at what we're getting reimbursed. I just seen the other night, Dane County School Board voted themselves a pay raise. Average school board member in Dane County is getting $15,000, more than double from what they were getting in Dane County, and they voted themselves. $15,000 for a school board member, and if you're in Westfield, they're getting, I think, 72 or something a meeting only. We can't compare to that, but can we look at what does Green Lake have? What does Adams pay? What is these there? And is there a way to get a breakdown to see where we sit on everything?
Association would have that information.
Kylie, didn't you just give us that?
Yeah,
She
it's
said
on
it.
SharePoint. I mean, and while everybody was talking, I kind
Yeah,
of
but we don't
glanced.
have
It
a
looks like everybody around us is at 75 for the most part. Green Lake is at 50. I could check if it changed, but to be totally honest, our surrounding counties and our district is at 75.
Did I see on Adams, they were 75 for the board meetings, but 50
50
for
for
the
committee.
committees?
Yep, yep.
I'm just gonna point out one thing too. You talked about a flat as opposed to, per diem. Village of Oxford, what they do is, kind of a combination. Every trustee gets a little salary, and that is based on they come to the meetings, having done what you were talking about, and they get a low per diem. If they miss the meeting, they don't get the per diem, but they still get the salary. And, so there's no reason why you can't have a hybrid too, as part of the system. If it makes it too complicated, that'd be up to Kylie to tell us, and she works on payroll, but that's just another thought. Cut the per diems, but build in something, because we all should be doing our homework. And that's just a thought.
I don't know how much time Kylie takes putting together all of our expenses each month and preparing payroll. But to me, that would be another benefit for a salary in that everybody gets the same. No timesheets need to be submitted, none of that extra information. And I don't know if $200 a month, like Peggy said, is the right number. I don't know if, or 2,000 a year is the right number, but some number divided by either 12 or 4, putting it making quarterly payments, I think would be a big help and also be a time saver.
And that's the big motivation for going to a flat fee usually. It's not that it's more perfect or more exact, but it's just easy. It gets rid of administrative costs and time. It's just it's just easy. That's the motivation there.
Yeah, I mean, if I just do a quick math of if it was a $300 flat rate a month, annually, that's only $5,100 for just county board meetings, let's say. Whereas right now, we budget $16,575. But I also, I guess what's difficult, just as this person who does the payroll, there are months that I have people who get $0 paychecks. And then sometimes people get, over $1,000 almost. So it's just kind of complicated, I guess. It's hard for me to not have a skewed opinion because I see people who just don't go to any meetings and then I see people who go to a ton. So I don't mind the administrative piece of it. I obviously do spend quite a bit of time, but because I've done it so long, I have it down to a science, and Gary has the spreadsheet set up perfectly. It took me a long time in the beginning to figure it all out, but now I can figure it out. But it's.
Maybe it's not as big of a concern then, but I was just saying with my previous experience in other municipalities, that's why they did it. So
I can
it's
understand
for
that.
convenience.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And it's, yeah.
Are you aware of any counties where maybe they pay their board quarterly instead of monthly? Or anything like that?
I don't know about that
You
actually.
haven't seen that one surveyed?
Mhm. Nope.
Alright, and my last bit of trivia, just for the record, while we're talking about wages, that, as the town chairman of Shields, I could make more money chairing the Shields Town Board than I can working for Marquette County as county board chair.
The chair gets a higher than 75.
What? Who gets 75?
County
More
board.
than me, on an annual salary. On an annual salary, I make more than $2,500. I get a lower per diem, yes, but
Yeah.
I get a base salary for being the one that has to sign all the checks every month.
And that's what Oxford's done too. They pay their village president more than they do the other board members.
And I won't say that I do more work in the town of Shields for that.
I'll agree. You know what I get.
Yeah, so.
You know what you get.
So you know what I'm saying, so I can work for the entire county and make less money than I can work for the 900 people in the town of Shields, so. That being said, we're gonna have to schedule another meeting.
Is there anything, Mr. Chair, that you want on the next executive and finance agenda? Because I'm sending it out tomorrow. So is there anything this committee, anything at all, even if it's not a specific number, but any conversation
can-
piece, anything at all? Because otherwise we won't meet again for E and F until November.
Right, I can make a general comments tomorrow, or at executive finance, that what we're discussing, so everybody's at least informed about where this committee's headed,
Okay. That sounds
and,
good.
whose phone number should I give them? But,
The attorney.
yeah. So what date works for everyone else? Thursday and Friday, we start the budgets, but. No, it's yeah, it is October.
We're gonna look at the same time frame for time.
I would guess that that works for everybody else.
I don't think there's anything on the calendar for October 15th.
No, it's open.
October 15th is clear.
I'm off the 15th, 16th and 17th of
Okay.
October. But you can.
Late in the month's not good
Still
because
have it without me.
I'm leaving after the county board meeting, so if we can sneak it in before the county board meeting, and this is short turnaround. Before Kylie leaves on the 15th, is it possible in the next 2 weeks?
What about 13th or 14th?
Well, I got other stuff, but what about next week? Or is there a reason why we don't wanna meet so quickly? Is there anything that we have to do extensive research on except get some numbers together?
The 8th, Wednesday, the 8th.
Well, depends what time. I can't make it in the morning.
This won't take near as long next time, I hope that. Hopefully noon work, Dave?
Noon would
I have
work,
a
yeah.
meeting at noon.
And there's a CJCC.
Okay.
On the 8th,
Yeah, but that one doesn't last long.
about
CJCC
1
is
or 1:30.
about an hour.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it'd be 1 o'clock, but then that only gives us an hour and a half and Dennis will have. to
I'll be here only for an hour and a half.
What's that?
I'll be here only for an hour and a half.
That's
now.
what I meant,
Are we looking, now, we can go back to,
I can't make the.
I have to check my schedule,
You can't
but if you wanted to go back to the 13th, I think I could cover anything because I think the 13th they're off of school. Yeah.
Columbus Day, but.
No,
it's not a
yeah,
holiday.
and
Pat's got park scheduled for 11:30 on the 13th.
just wait a minute, I'll just try this.
Or the 7th. Sean can't make it on the 8th. So,
7th just cleared up. I settled the case today, so I'm
So
free all day.
and you
7th.
got judicial and public safety at 7 or at 2, so. That
Board
would
of
get.
Health in the morning and judicial and public safety at 2.
What time you done with health, Judy?
Someone said the 15th.
that's out.
Oh, that's out.
You
Okay.
can do the 15th just without me if you want. That's up to you
You're
all.
gonna have.
We
to
can't
sit
have a
through this
meeting
too.
without you.
Darn it.
What's up about the 14th?
Land and water and ag and extension will run till about 11 o'clock unless, right, Dennis? And then
Yeah,
from 11, we'd have 11 to 2. On my schedule anyway, that doesn't speak for anybody else's.
11 to 2 on the 14th.
Yes, that's what I'm looking at.
Woodwork, you're saying.
would work for me, but I
It
don't.
works for me, yeah, I don't have an issue.
Gary,
with
you looking at?
So it's right after-
14th, right after Ag and Extension.
Okay.
Tuesday 14.
I think I'm open right now, the 13th, they don't have no
So
school.
you're gonna be in town.
Yeah, I know, yeah. The 13th, they don't have school, but I think I got a doctor's appointment in the morning on the 13th, but
Okay.
that would be one day to go to school.
The 13th, they threw parks right at 11:30, so that messes up the whole day.
Okay, that's fine.
So 14th, the
Let's try it the 14th, right after
So 11.
Ag and extension.
yes,
11 o'clock.
yeah.
Okay, then I will give directive to Extension Land and Water to condense their meeting and condense their reports so that we can finish that meeting at no later than 10:45. And are we gonna be back here at 11 o'clock then?
Is this gonna be closed?
This room will be closed.
Yeah, I
Stay
booked it
right
for
over
county
So we'll
board.
stay where we're at.
It'll have to be
Okay.
over there, right?
What?
Service center?
Boardroom.
County boardroom?
Yep.
So then let's do it that day right after Land and Water and Extension. And when I talk to them for setting up their agenda, then I will.
That's on the 14th?
Yes.
Can you make it
11:02 on the
even
14th.
earlier?
To their meeting? Well, their meeting starts at 9 o'clock, right? 9 o'clock work
Yes.
first?
Yeah.
Earlier is better.
9 and 10.
We can do 8:30 and 9:30.
Or could you get this one at 10:30 instead of 11? She's saying go earlier.
Either,
Well, see if I can move, they could probably move Ag and Extension, Land and Water, we could probably move that a half an hour early. And if I knew Pat didn't have much on his schedule, we wouldn't need that whole hour for his meeting, but without knowing that.
all I am asking is if earlier is better,
Yeah, well, it'd be nice, I can meet with
then
we
it
can
would be
move
better
it.
for you too.
Yeah, we can move Land and Water to 8:30, I don't see no problem why we couldn't move it to 8:30. That shouldn't be no problem, I get home a quarter after and I'll just race over here.
So instead of 11 o'clock for this, what time, what's the earliest we can meet? I guess is what I'm
Dennis has
asking.
got 2 meetings that morning, so whatever.
2 meetings, if you give me I can tell them we gotta be done in an hour and a half. And you guys are gonna
What
come
time,
in.
Dennis?
10:30?
9:30,
10,
10 o'clock,
10 o'clock?
Holy crap, you're.
10
really-
o'clock.
That's on the 14th.
All right.
10 o'clock on the 14th, I'm gonna push them, and if for some reason it goes to 10:15, we could still
We'll
meet
still
then
be
because
over.
Be there.
We just can't start early.
we just can't start early.
Okay.
Okay, and so that one's tied up.
Thank you.
I just gotta make sure Mike ain't sitting at 10 in my driveway like he was this morning, because then I get out and couldn't.
10 a.m. then.
Okay.
10 o'clock.
And if we get adjourned right now, we haven't gone over 4 hours, so.
Well, I could wait a couple of minutes.
That's exciting.
We're not adjourning, we're suspending activity.
All right.
I don't know what to do.
Set it off, dude.
Oh.